And so like our interest, like particularly like academic interest, seems to always like rely on what's already understood before it. So if you're trying to push something forward and you're not working with the template, then people are telling you that what you're doing doesn't exist. And therefore you'll always have these people. This is why I find thinkers, particularly thinking about like Black studies thinkers, they're thinking about technology and Blackness more than thinking specific, like they're thinking about Blackness and then they're thinking about like all of these things, one of them including technology and how it might pertain to, so someone like Alexander Wehelier is like really easy to use when thinking about hip hop, or somebody like Hortense Spillers is easy to think with when thinking about hip hop, even though these are not hip hop scholars. And hip hop scholars are thinking about like the moment that they can get their book published.
Right.
And if you're thinking about the moment you can get your book published, then, you know, like imagine how many Nicki Minaj texts are going to come out now when Nicki Minaj is not even a thing that hip hop is like, she's not a person hip hop is interested in anymore.
Right.
And this is not to say that it's not important to document what Nicki Minaj meant. This means to say that the production cycle of hip hop texts, or the production cycle of popular texts and the production cycle of academic texts, are not going to extend to the largest readership possible, because it's going to take you like 3 years to get an academic book produced. And in 3 years, hip hop has moved into a totally different space.
It changes so fast. It changes so fast, right?
Imagine somebody getting the Fetty Wap book through, and then by the time that book comes out, people are like, who?
Right. Especially in the era of like one-hit wonders, like, you know what I'm saying? People like, I remember, like, you know, the goal was to have longevity. Now everything is cashing out. But look, I'm letting you know I'm cheating right now, bro. I already pressed record. Word. So just let you know. You know what I'm saying? Word. I'm cheating Word. Because look. So when I first started doing these, yeah, we're doing this 100% informal. When I first started doing these, I'm very verbose. You know what I'm saying? And pedantic even. And so I'm doing like 2 or 3 hour, 2.5 hour podcast, right? And so people was like, man, cut it down. I'm like, all right, cool. But I can already tell we about to run it today. This might be a 2-parter off the top, because you know I'm a burgeoning hip hop educator, and you really, really do what I want to do. You know what I'm saying? So like every single time we talk, we run it. You know what I'm saying? So I know you're on sabbatical. Hope you ain't got too much to do today, because I feel like we're about to have a great conversation, brother. Great conversation.
I'm with it. No, I appreciate you having me, man. And yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
So let me do my real introduction. Yo, what's up? It's your boy Marcel P. Black. This is Really Outchea podcast, man. You know, I've been gone for a little bit. You know what I'm saying? I you know, just dealing with family stuff, man. Like I made a post about this on Facebook, bro. Like grief and anxiety has been really whipping my behind. So my father passed a little over a year ago. And at first I was beating myself up, you know what I'm saying, for not pushing through it. But then I was like, fuck it. You know what I'm saying? Like, so yeah. I'm gonna take my time to get what I do, and then, you know, whenever it's time for me to get back to what I love, because one thing I can't do is, on top of what I'm going through, let this artist stuff weigh in on my mental health. So for people who's watching and wondering, like, man, Marcel be kind of sporadic with these interviews and podcasts, that's the reason why, and that just is what it is. Right? I don't work for nobody. I do this because I love it. Ain't nobody making no money over here. You know what I'm saying? But I do this to really, you know, for me, most importantly, it's about getting with people who I can have a conversation with, people who I admire, people who I'm inspired by, and just really, really kicking it. You know what I'm saying? So I'm gonna try to read your bio real quick so I can let people know who may not be familiar, you know, the caliber of person I got with me. So today we have Mr. A.D. Carson, PhD. A.D. Carson is an award-winning performance artist and educator from Decatur, Illinois. His work focuses on race, literature, history, rhetoric, and performance. He received a PhD in rhetoric, communication, and information design from Clemson University. His album, I Used to Love the Dream, is the first ever rap album peer-reviewed for publication with an academic press. We're going to talk about that later. And this was released with the University of Michigan Press in 2020. His work extends from his doctoral dissertation on my master's, The Rhetorics of Rhymes and Revolutions, a rap album that is a primary feature of a digital archive at PhD80degree.com. On my master's was internationally heralded and was recognized by Clemson's Graduate Student Government as the 2017 Outstanding Dissertation. So before we get any deeper, you know what I'm saying, into this type of situation, this is a question. No matter anytime I do an interview, I must ask this question first before we get into anything. Do you remember how we first met?
Yeah, we met at the Tea Bazaar in Charleston. No, Charlottesville, Virginia. You were one of the featured acts at the monthly hip hop show, and we struck up a conversation. I think before you hit the stage, and then in between and after, it was like super rainy out on that on that ridiculous strip, the mall out here, and so yeah, and I also I feel like you might have been recording something that night too, like a video.
I shot the video for Hallelujah, aka F Donald Trump. You know what I'm saying? Out there, and that was cool, man, because that whole situation was funny. Big shout out to my man Cullen, man. Cullen, one of the most thorough dudes, fellow man, sons of Ichiban, 9 Pillars. You know what I'm saying? What's the name of the showcase? I apologize. I remember everything besides the name of the showcase or whatever.
Yeah,
but a big shout out to Cullen, man. He got me out there to Charlottesville. And so what was so funny about that night for me, it was an epic situation. The week before, I had a show booked at Lafayette, Louisiana. And I tell the story in the video, right?
Mm-hmm.
The day that I had got ready to do the show in Lafayette, Louisiana. Literally, I'm getting ready to leave. It's about a 45-minute drive. I'm getting ready to drive to Lafayette for sound check. And I get a message from the promoter saying that the show has been canceled. And I started asking questions why. He said, because apparently the owner of the venue heard, he was going through my timeline and heard my song F Donald Trump. And I'm assuming he's a Trump supporter. And he came up with this phantom ordinance that said that you can't have vulgar political language in the outside venue because half of the venue was like outside where we were performing at, right? And so I'm just like, it was cap or whatever. They made, I never got my bread back and I'm still kind of salty about it. But I just find it hella ironic that, I'm from Louisiana and I had the show canceled on me because of my content. And this is before I really knew about Charlottesville, because at the time, all I knew about was what, the Unite the Right rally. So
yeah.
To everybody else, everybody just think that, Charlottesville is just like, some super like Klan town, right? Or super like right-wing Nazi town. And I know it does have this history, but
yeah.
I remember telling my dad, like, I'm going to Charlottesville. He's like, you doing what? You know what I'm saying? Like, you doing what?
Yeah.
And my dad was like, are you sure? And I'm telling my friends, and my wife was worried. And I was like, you know what? I'm about to really give a middle finger to the people of Lafayette. I'm going to do the F Donald Trump song, shoot the video in Charlottesville. You know what I'm saying? And it happened. And that's how it came together. So like that whole situation was like super duper cool for me. And like, man, just really getting to meet you and talk to you, bro. Like I remember first hearing about you. We'll get to that a little later, man. But I remember like just, being an NPR guy. You know what I'm saying? And just listening to NPR. I think you was with Michelle. Wasn't that Michelle? Whatever the white lady name is. Hold up, I can tell you.
That's the
Michelle Martin.
Martin.
Yeah, I remember just hearing this dude like talking about, you know what I'm saying? Matter of fact, hold up. Matter of fact, here it is right here. I just remember hearing this dude talking about like, and it's so funny, like, bro, I have a list of questions. We just go out all over the place. We just gonna vibe. I mean, it's so funny because like mixtapes have become, that's not it, the butt of a joke.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And so like, oh, he's dropping a mixtape. Oh, like literally, bro, like, side note, there was one dude, I was in the studio, you know what I'm saying? This dude had done like 27 years flat, you know what I'm saying? He went in when he was like maybe 18, he's like 45, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And he got straight out of jail and wouldn't drop the mixtape, you know what I'm saying? So like, but like those type of things are like the butt of the jokes, but like I'm listening to this dude talking about dropping the mixtape as his dissertation, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, Michelle Martin, that's her name, Michelle Martin or whatever.
Yeah.
But yeah, so just hearing about that, and I'm just like, yo, and so when I got put on the bill, I saw your name. I'm like, what do I recognize it? Because by this time it's been about 2 or 3 years. I'm like, where have I heard this name before? And you know, I'm doing my Googles, and I hit up Cullen. I'm like, yo, is that your boy? He was like, yeah. I was, oh, it's about to be lit. So like, you know, so like for me, you know, I'm very competitive. You know what I'm saying? As a rapper, as a performer, but like a part of me, I wanted to impress you, like straight up, because like I'm bro. A lot of times for what I do as a conscious artist, as a person who's active in the community, some of my politics, it's just how much I read or whatever, bro. I feel like I'm on an island. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so for me, I do it because I love it. I do it because I'm passionate about it. But like, because I don't necessarily have like peers in what I do or people who have done what I've done on a higher level, I sometimes have a hard time gauging where I'm at, right?
Yeah.
And so for me, as a person who has always been interested in the intersection between hip hop and, you know what I'm saying, and academia, and just, you know, just basically reading a whole bunch of books about rap, if nothing else. Like, you know what I'm saying? I was like, damn, this dude doing this. I was like, I hope I impress him or whatever. You know what I'm saying? But okay, we're gonna get to all the hip hop and rap stuff there. You know what I'm saying? Like we'll get there. Question. I got a question for you. All right. So every time today might be the first time I've ever seen you without the Chicago Bulls hat. Everybody thinks you're from Chicago. No. From Decatur. Now that's a Detroit hat, but I imagine you can say, yo, I'm repping Decatur as well. I get it. You know what I'm saying? So tell me about Decatur, Illinois. Tell me about the city, the history of the city, and specifically tell me how the hip hop finds you in Decatur, Illinois.
Yeah. So, you know, it's strange that, you know, it's strange. This album, you know, like I used to love to dream. I wrote kind of to interrogate this idea of home anyhow, right? Not like we claim home, we hope home claims us. But I think that, you know, like when you get distance from it, particularly if it's like distance in time, but also like geographic distance from wherever that place is, you know, it just, I don't know, I'm challenged to think in a whole lot of different ways about it. Decatur is like a factory town historically. My folks moved there in the 60s and 70s. And so, well, my pop's folks moved in the 60s from Mississippi. My mom's folks moved from Southern Illinois in the 70s, or like 60s into the 70s. And at this time, the population in Decatur were people who were coming to work at these factories. So you had these agricultural factories like the Staley Company, you know, the railroads are there. You had Firestone, you know, Archer Daniels, Midland, and then, you know, like Staley is actually the place that, well, you know, created the Chicago Bears. So, you know, like the Chicago Bears were originally called the Decatur Staleys.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah. And so it's called, Decatur is called the soybean capital of the world, you know, for this reason. And you go there and you can kind of smell it too. You know, it smells like soybeans because the processing is there. Yeah, it's, and especially like cold nights, if you live out east, it's yeah, it can be really bad, awful.
I'm saying, yeah, that don't sound like it's the greatest smell. Like
no, like you go to basketball games and, you know, like the chants are, you know, like we can smell you, like that kind of thing. Yeah,
oh, wow.
It's wild. But, you know, like so you have that, you know, very blue collar. But, you know, time progresses, all of these factories start dying out, and all of the kinds of things that happen when factories die out, you know, exist in a town like Decatur. So, you know, like in the past few years, Decatur has been ranked, you know, fairly highly on, you know, like America's worst cities for Black folks. The beginning of last year, it was ranked the third fastest shrinking city in the country. But, you know, like my folks grew up there, or like my folks made lives there. You know, me and my siblings, my cousins, mostly grew up there. But, you know, like me and my brother and my mom, we moved around quite a bit. So Decatur was always home as like the spot that we touched back to anytime.
Home base. It was definitely home base, right?
But yeah, we moved around quite a bit. And so this is the reason that I think home is interesting, because, you know, like I started school there, but I never went to the same school I don't think that I finished two years of school in a row in the same place. Until I was in high school, my last 2 years of high school. But up until that point, you know, like we transferred at least once a year. If it wasn't moving across town, it was moving out of town, downstate, upstate, whatever. And so it felt fairly nomadic for me. But Decatur always felt, because my family was there, because my grandmother, you know, my pop's mom was there for for all of that time in the same house. It always felt like the place that we were going back to. So every time we left, you could imagine, you know, the sad song, like, hopefully we get to come back here at some point. And music was always there. My pops was played in a band, a family band. They did original songs. They also did covers. They played at local festivals, you know, these kinds of things. And my mom's side of the family was, you know, very gospel oriented. My mom at one point was a choir director, you know, and, you know, did those kinds of things. So music was always there. I think the hip hop, you know, creeped its way in because I was interested very early on in poetry. And I think that what felt more, not, I won't say acceptable because that's not really true. What felt like a bridge between, or a link between me and my peers much more, was the kind of stuff they were interested in. And they might have been interested in poetry as a thing, you know, like, you know, you write somebody a poem and they like it. But I don't know that the performance thing was really, or I believe that the performance thing was something that was different, you know, like that you could do at a lunch table, and people might be impressed by that much more than they would be in the way that you might be able to pen a poem, and, you know, people like that kind of thing. So I think the performative aspect of rap was the thing that really drew me to wanting to be an MC. While I still held on to ideas of wanting to be an artist in other, you know, sort of literary or visual ways, but rap was the thing that was just like, it felt like it was easy to translate, because I think there was a reference for it for most of the people that I was trying to impress at that point in time. And also, when there were rappers that I considered literary, they made me realize that those literary ambitions weren't something that I had to give up in order to do this other thing. So it was something that I could combine elements of things that I already appreciated and liked into another thing that I felt at that time was like much easier, that could translate much easier for my peer group. And just competition with siblings. You know, I got 5 brothers, 2 sisters. And you know, you want to be better than them at anything that they're interested in. And so, you know, like my elder brothers love hip hop. I think that, you know, it's almost every little brother's ambition to impress an older brother until they decide that they want to beat their older brother. And then, you know, like, you start competing against them so that you can so you can be the top dog, so you can be the best at the thing that y'all are competing with, whether it be sports or rap or whatever. So there's a lot of that, a lot of competition.
Word. So, like, who was like some of your favorite rappers, or like, were there like local rappers, you know what I'm saying, that was popping in that particular part of Illinois? So or like, you know, just having to understand how these things work, you know what I'm saying? When people lose jobs, there's a lot of poverty, and when there's a lot of poverty, a lot of gangs happen. So like, how did like the streets kind of like inform you and mold like hip hop and its influences growing up in Decatur?
Yeah, I should say that, you know, and, you know, a big shout out to the Rap House in Decatur, which was it was an independent music store, but they sold everything there. I mean, you could get, you know, you got mixtapes, you got t-shirts, you got incense, you got oils, you got, I mean, anything that could be sold, you could probably, you know, like, it was in the counter there. And then across the street, at one point, there was another independent record store that just closed down at the beginning of 2020, or at the end of 2019, called GB's Records and Tapes. And I think that those places kind of held the music culture in Decatur. And Central Illinois is interesting because, you know, as I said, my folks from both sides of the family came from the South. There was not as much of a focus on what was, I mean, like, certainly folks were fans of what was happening on the East Coast, But just as prominent as that were people, you know, from Michigan. You know, you had groups. I mean, you know, you had people like MC Breed or groups like man, who was I can't even remember the name of this group. I was just telling somebody about the
Dayton Family.
The Dayton Family for sure. There was another one they did what was it? Another Murder. I can't remember the name of it. I know I remember the name. I think the name of the album was Another Murder. But you just had hella, like, you know, like Michigan artists. You had artists from Tennessee, Texas, you know, like the South and the West Coast, you know, DJ Quick, Spice One. Strangely enough, I think, you know, like Spice One and Tupac might have been the way that I heard of Method Man, and not the other way around, as a whole lot of folks get, you know, because again, you're dealing like this, just like this idea that I think that folks were very intentional and not privileging what was going on, like East Coast, over what might be happening in the Midwest and out West and down South. And so, you know, of course, I thought Method Man was dope, but again, he was someone who was related to the kind of stuff that the people that I admired listened to regularly. And so the musical, like doing what I do now, it's interesting to hear people's, you know, narrating of their own, you know, like bibliography or you know, genealogy, because, you know, like, of course, there's, you know, Twista and Common and Kanye and the host of Chicago artists, but then there were kind of local artists that in the local thing, it was really more competition. Seemed to be like competition rather than, you know, like a local scene that was going to try to like uphold a particular group or particular set of groups. So it was this one guy by the name of Rab, who is still, you know, real cool dude. He had an album, I think he went by Rab One. He put a joint out that I think it was interesting because it was noteworthy because it felt like people believed he was on. And that's, you know, a much different thing than saying like, this is somebody, you know, he's an older dude and he's recognized as somebody who can rap. And then he was related to this other group. He was part of this group, and then they put out an album, this guy by the name of DJ Ryansky and Tab, who was his cousin. They put out an album. And I remember meeting Ryansky at a thing that was not even in Decatur. And then like linking up with him and just like trying to soak up as much game as I possibly could from this guy who seemed to already know everything about the music industry because he had this relationship with these people who already had, you know, like their feet in the rap. And so knowing him, working with him, and then going to this place where like folks would come on Thursday nights to just have rap sessions, or to go, you know, on Tuesdays to the record store and just really stand there at the counter because maybe I didn't have money or whatever, just like listening to the guys at the store. And they're like, well, what record should we order? What album should we get? Because this is going to be like what is available in this place musically. So who's hot? And then, you know, just a lot of reading, you know, like doing a whole lot of reading. By the time I had, you know, the opportunity to like get a first job, I spent most of my time, you know, I worked at this arcade at the mall, and I spent most of my time reading magazines and writing raps. You know, like I spent most of my time doing that rather than doing the job that I was supposed to be doing. And then of course, you know, you would still have these people. It's like, well, you know, this dude who raps, he be at the mall. And so like you might have somebody come out there, and then, you know, it turns into, you know, that kind of situation right there at the, you know, at the desk where you're supposed to be doing your job. And you're like, well, no, I'm much more interested in rap. And I think that that's held over, you know, jobs where, you know, I might have worked security overnight, spent most of the time reading and writing raps and not really checking the trucks in or checking them out. If it was a show, you know, I'd call off because I got to go perform somewhere and like make it seem like, you know, like I'm sick or whatever. But it wasn't, you know, it felt like rap was always this thing that I prioritized. And even while I found myself, you know, like in undergrad and in my master's degree particularly, I didn't want to give up the stuff that I thought was really, I didn't want to give up the stuff that I thought was most important to me. You know, like my reading lists were extended from these people whose music I was listening to. And so um, I would always try to bring whatever amount of what was like sort of like the Decatur parts of me, the musical cultural influences from Decatur. I was always trying to bring as much of that into the classroom as I could. And I think that it wasn't until I was in my doctoral program that I realized that, you know, I didn't really need permission, or that the permission that I was seeking wasn't something that anybody could really give me in any way, any more than I could give myself. And that was, I think, the important turn, because it wasn't as if I wasn't doing it. It's just that I was always in a certain way hiding it or looking for someone to grant something that they really couldn't grant, to say, well, AB, you should do more of that. Nobody's ever, I don't think that anybody's ever going to do that. And if they are, they aren't doing it for the reason that you might want, you know, like it's very likely some other thing animating that behind it, rather than like you realizing, you know, like your full self, or you sort of standing in, you know, like an identity that you want to fully inhabit.
Oh man, bruh, woo! You said so much right there. All right, so I want to go back to something that really stuck out to me, and I've told the story. I told the story several times, right? So I want to say maybe 15, 14, 15, 16. Hold on, let me tell you, 98. So about 15 years old.
Mm-hmm.
My cousin came home he was a few. My cousin was a 98, 99, whatever. I'm gonna say I was 15. This I was 15. My cousin was a 5%er. He was 4 years ahead of me. He was a freshman in college at Oklahoma State University. Well, that's when he came to the knowledge, rather. He came off for Easter. He kind of seen me tipping my toes out there a little bit in the streets, right?
Yeah.
And and so he, being a good big cousin that he is, you know what I'm saying? Now, I tell the story all the time, I love to death. We talking about the music I'm listening to. So this is the era of No Limit, Cash Money, Rough Riders, you know what I'm saying? The highly lyrical, I'm gonna sell drugs and shoot you era, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But still with commercial appeal, you know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. I'm at the age where I'm finally able to go to like parties and stuff. So, the music from the hood is really informing me or whatever, and I loved everything about it. So we're having a conversation, and we're just talking about different types of artists and stuff like that. And he's putting me up on stuff. I'm like, whatever. He comes home for Christmas, you know what I'm saying, 5 or 6 months later, and he brings me Dead Prez. He brings me Mos Def, Kweli, Brand Nubian, the Roots, you know what I'm saying? Like, this is the part of that conscious rap era, you know what I'm saying? Like, not the alternative, not the Back to Africa, this is when conscious rap and neo soul was a thing, you know what I'm saying? The late 90s, early 2000s or whatever. He brings me these albums, and the song that really, really like blew me away, and to this day, I will credit it as the hardest song I've ever heard in my life, is They Schools by Dead Prez. I've been listening to all this nihilistic black genocide music with guns and dope and misogyny and knew it word for word, but I had never heard anything as revolutionary and hard as these two black dudes dissing the public school system and calling it out as a white supremacist institution. You know what I'm saying? And so it blew my mind. And so I had so many questions. And you were talking about how the things that you listen to informed your reading list. You know what I'm saying? So I would ask my cousin all these different questions. So now I'm listening to them talk about, I got his book over there, brother, the intro to Dead Prez is Brother Chairman O'Malley. You know what I'm saying? So I'm asking about all the different people that I'm, of course you heard of Malcolm X and things of that nature, but now I'm asking about Fred Hampton. I'm asking about all these other different people that, like, that particular moment is what kind of started me on the road of me being a career conscious rapper, even though I didn't really get 100% serious about it until, I got into college or whatever, like decided this is what I wanted to be. But if you wouldn't have gave me that Dead Prez, it would have never, because neither one of my parents, of course they proud black people, but neither one of my parents are like militant or whatever. So I can honestly say, like, the beginning of my political education began with hip hop, and that informed who I am as an artist, and what I do is these conscious hip hop artists, right? So that's why I don't disavow. A lot of people say, "Oh, I claim being a conscious rapper because I know what it did for me." in the place I was at, right? So about 10 years ago, similar to you, I was working at a charter school. I was doing like, TOR, disciplinary work or whatever, you know what I'm saying? And which I don't really care for. But without being TOR, I was at a point to where I was reading, I had this downtime, you know what I'm saying? The kids in there, when they're not cutting up, I get to sit down and read. I was reading a book a week. And I was really, so this is when I really got into like the like the Bakari Kitwanas and the Nelson Georges and the Kevin Powells and the different writers from the hip hop generation who are writing about hip hop. And just like, I did a lot of research about the 5%ers. I did a lot of research about you know what I'm saying, African Bambaataa and the Black Spades and the origins of gangs in New York City. And so me reading all those different books informed what I put out for about 2 or 3 years. You know what I'm saying? Brother Jared Ball, Dr. Jared Ball over at Morgan State, you know what I'm saying? He does emancipatory journalism. You know what I'm saying? He came out with I Mix What I Like. I got the book right here. I Mix What I Like in 2011. And so all this I'm saying to like, when you're talking about what you're listening to, and how it expands your book list, that really stuck out to me. So I was wondering, like you would read magazines, you would read books, and you would listen, and all these things influence each other. So like, what were some of the books or some of the authors, or maybe some of the MCs that you listened to that made you say, okay, let me read a book about this?
Yeah, I mean, that's it's a great question. I think that I mean, in addition to those that you named, because I think that Black on Both Sides, the Black Star album, the Dead Prez joint, not as much Illmatic as it was written, not because Illmatic wasn't dope, but I think that I don't even know why. I don't even know the why on that. Like I have to like really ruminate on that a little bit. The group that I was thinking of earlier was Top Authority. Even as like the Top Authority album, these guys from Flint. It's really interesting that they got this album where there's a song on there where they talk about like just murdering people. It's like cartoonish murder, but then they got like a song where they're talking about being at a cookout and they hope don't nobody shoot it up.
Right. That's how it always goes, man. You got to, and so to me, like I think that's what's lost. I think that's what's lost in like gangster rap, because like I always tell people, like, I can't listen to the 2000 or whatever, but put it like this: if Yo Gotti came out when I was 21, I'd be a Yo Gotti fan. I think Yo Gotti is dope, but at 37, it's just way too ignorant for me, right? But I can listen to some good old West Coast gang banging. I can listen to Beanie Siegel, and I think the difference is because I think gangster rap back then, the street rap back then, like if it's 17 songs of the album, you know what I'm saying, 12 of them gonna be shoot 'em up and bang bang, 2 gonna be for the ladies, and the rest, like you're gonna have 1 to 3 songs on the album that kind of wraps up. It's kind of like what is it, like the wages of sin is death. You know what I'm saying? Like there was a more to the story with the street music, right? Nowadays, there is like, I used to love Rockefeller, old Jay-Z, but specifically like the Philly guys, because it was some of the most introspective street music you're ever going to hear. And like they would talk about the ins and outs of the dope game. They would talk about mental health. They would talk about, Beanie Siegel's on there crying because his father's not there. Like it was a lot to it that spoke to it. And I think nowadays everything is just shoot 'em up, bang, bang. We never die, whatever. You know what I'm saying? So, even if you go back to like old No Limit music, like I have a lot of different feelings about Master P. But one thing I can say is he's consistently had, well, back then at least, he consistently had social commentary on his album. You know what I'm saying? Now, a lot of social commentary with those guys was rooted in black capitalism, which is something that is a whole nother conversation. But like of course, the whole album you spin shooting up everybody. You know what I'm saying? But then you got those, we need to stop the killing, RIP, my brother. You know what I'm saying? And then you got those, I want to, the white man got us mixed up in the system. And those type of songs are not present anymore. And I think that's, and I think that's the difference between the industry coming in and you know, like, you know, the industry having, you know, dictating a whole lot more of the music or what have
you. Yeah, I mean, I think that, you know, if you don't have an album, then you don't have the space. You know, like if an album is not the priority, then, you know,
you.
like
Right.
what somebody might call filler, you know, someone else might call, you know, like the conscience. You know, like that's you know, like what rounds out what's going on in a project, because people are like, well, we don't really care what 3 songs you fill the album out with, as long as there are 3 more songs on the album. And you know, like that might be where you have the space, you know, like some creative space to do whatever you want. You know, like, and maybe like there's even just a little more imagination in that, because you know, like you're existing outside of these strict parameters that you've been given for, you know, like what the album must have. So I mean, I think about like DMX in that vein as well. And I guess the reason that I mentioned, you know, like I said, I mentioned um, Top Authority um, in those groups. It's not. It's. I think it's because of the like sort of what felt like range. Even though like right now you can probably look at them and say like it was contradictions, but also this is the stuff that, again, this is animating conversations that people who are older than me are having. And if you want to impress those people, then you just become well versed in whatever it is that they talk about. And so, you know, like me being the kind of kid I was, I wanted to have information that people found was valuable about whatever it was they were listening to and talking about. So then, if I was in a conversation, folks wouldn't kick me out. They would invite me in, because they would say, well, what do you know about this artist or that artist or that thing or, you know, whatever. And so, I mean, but I recall like maybe one of the first, I'll say Gwendolyn Brooks was probably one of the first artists that like that I tie with rap, like specifically, like first authors that I tied with rap. And I think that was because I think she shouted out like Queen Latifah and Moni Love. And she said that, you know, she likes music that has some kind of depth to it. And I remember admiring Gwendolyn Brooks so much that it made me think that rappers that she thinks are dope have to be rappers that I think are dope.
Right. Right. Okay.
And and so then it's like, well, what is it that she's hearing in these artists? So then you have an ear for whatever she's hearing in Moni Love and Queen Latifah, so that you might be able to have an ear like hers, or that like you might be tuned in to whatever she's tuning into. And like I said, you know, like as a poet, she was like, you know, she's there, like she's exactly like that's the space that I'm trying to like have whatever I do exist in. Um, and then, you know, anytime there was a reference in a song, like whether it be like an explicit reference to a book or if it was a reference to a character, then I was always wanting to find out what that reference was and then have more information about that reference. And I didn't realize that I was creating like a toolbox for me to be able, you know, like this kind of like archive that you'd be able to go back to and just pull things out. But now, you know, like that's precisely what that is. And so and you know, I'd also say that because none of these things exist in a vacuum, is that my mom was really, really, really enamored with like TV crosswords. Like every week, she would get like not just the joint from like the TV Guide magazine, but like the one that was nothing but the crosswords.
Mm-hmm.
And same kind of thing. Wanted to impress my mom. I'm like, well, I need to know who all these references are, what all these things might be, and that also contributed to me wanting to know um, a variety of things, whether it was like reference to a particular story, what the story meant, or it was a particular book. Um, and so the artists who did have these interests in, you know, like what I might come to find out later as Black studies, I don't know if that was happening. I don't think that was happening early. If it was happening, it was because like, you know, my mom would ask questions, you know, like these leading questions about my identity, just like trying to see where I was. And I didn't realize that was what she was doing. And then eventually, you know, I kind of had this, you know, like my compass was set, you know, like in this particular direction. And it felt more natural whenever, you know, like I start reading, um, Malcolm X. And it's like, yeah, this is probably where I should be. Even though when I read the autobiography of Malcolm X for the first time, um, I know that I read it because, you know, my girlfriend at the time was in a study group, and her friends didn't know, like they were trying to do textual analysis.
Mm.
And I was trying to get her to hurry up and finish so like we could do whatever it was that that I preferred doing. So I'm like, let's like let me see it. And then I went through like the excerpt that they had, and you know, like probably like over helped them with their homework so she could be finished. But I found myself deeply interested in it, and then went back and got the whole book, and you know, like kind of secretly read it on my own. And that was it. And so it was like related to music, or related to my life. But then, you know, like after I'd read the book, then, you know, like I go back and I'm listening to particular, like, you know, certain artists, and I'm like, oh, that's what they were talking about. And so now it starts to click. But, you know, like a lot of times it was, like I said, convenience and trying to impress people who I admire.
So we're about the same age, right? So let's take it back to, let's say, between your junior high school to your sophomore year in college, right? You went so you went to undergrad at Millikan University, which is also in Decatur, correct?
Yeah.
So during this time, you were a rapper, right?
Yep.
Okay. So from your junior high school to your sophomore year in college, what did trying to be a rapper look like in the local scene? Like what was it like? Like, you know, what did trying to be, because, and I'm saying this as a person who comes from, you know, my hometown is smaller than yours, right? And so I remember like you had people who freestyled at lunch.
Yep.
But then you had people who actually went to the studio, and there weren't that many of us. We were the rappers. The guys who freestyled at lunch was just whatever. We were the rappers. We were the guys going to the talent shows. We were the guys, you know what I'm saying, actually spending the whole summer recording 4 songs, right? So what did, you know, and we didn't have anywhere to go rap like that. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know how, I mean, I'm looking at this, it looks like Decatur's about 75,000 people, you know what I'm saying? I'm assuming because there's a college there might be some bars or whatever. So like, what was it like trying to be a rapper in that era in that small town?
Yeah, I mean, it was, studio time was not really a thing that was abundant. I do remember the very first time that I recorded was with a guy who, you know, like I knew from, it's one of the neighborhoods, you know, I lived in. His name is NJ. And he had equipment, you know, he made beats and he had equipment, which meant that you know, like I went and recorded, I think we recorded 2 songs in like this, in his bedroom setup. And but like what it meant to, like what it looked like to try to be a rapper was, for me, it was like, well, no one can mention that they rap without showing me and proving that they can rap. You know, like if you don't have that, then don't tell me you rap. And also, if you say that you rap, then you got to be willing to prove it. And you know, if I'm being honest, like I also just kind of felt deep down, you rap, but you don't rap. Like you don't rap like me. And I am willing, under whatever circumstances, we can stop everything. So like no matter where we go, whether it be a party, whether it's at the grocery store, whatever, if anybody mentions rap and I hear it, I'm there, and I want to see you do the thing that you claiming, because like rap felt like it was like fighting words to me, and I was always ready.
So you was a battler. You was a battler.
Yeah, I felt at least, you know, like that's what I would have called myself. You know, I would have said that, you know, like anybody can get it at all times, and that's actually, you know, like when my first year in undergrad, that's how I met Truth, the producer I've been working with since. You know, and he did, I think, I want to say half of the tracks on the new album. Truth and I, we started out at undergrad together. He was already, I went to Eastern Illinois before I went to Millikan. And, you know, the kind of thing, somebody says you're a rapper, you know, like, so they want to introduce you to other rappers, but every rapper is like Them niggas don't rap. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I hear you, but like probably not really. And then you go meet, you know, the person, whoever it is. And so like me and Truth met on the quad. And it was just like, I mean, it almost sounds like a cliche because it's like, oh yeah, you know, such and such said you was nice. He's like, yeah, they've been talking about you too. And then, you know, it's a few people standing around, and then like, you know, like you just start going back and forth, or, you know, like everybody is rapping, and then before long, it's just you and that person rapping. And then at some point, it's like, okay, so we just gonna keep doing this, or like, or what's the next step? And you know, ultimately that made us really close. And so we decided to like start going, you know, like trying to find ways to record and work with each other. So he had a group of people that he was working with, and I had whatever little things that I had going on at home. And but it was always just like the wanting to be, or the readiness to rap anywhere was like what it looked like initially. And then I think it turned into songwriting as I started to go into studios, and folks are like, yeah, you can rap. It's very clear that you can rap, you know, like, but I'm trying to do a song. And a song consists of more than you just, you know, like rapping for 55, for, you know, 58 bars or something like that.
So are you a freestyler? You just or do you keep about 10, 16 bar verses that you're ready to go at all times?
I would actually like try to mix it up. I always had a notebook. I got a Tupper, you know, like this thing. I saw like Mickey Fax on some joint, you know, bringing out. He's like, you know, I got all these notebooks, and I saw that and I laughed really, because somewhere in this house is a huge tub that has every notebook I've ever had in it. And I would just fill those joints up. So it would, you know, it would be lines, or it would be verses, and it would really depend on the circumstance. So I would always have like one in the chamber, and then like if things got out of control, then it's like, yeah, we gotta go to old trusty, you know, and so I'll be able to navigate this lane, you know, if it needs to happen as well. And I think that there was something really unhealthy about the way, like how competitive I was, and I realized how unhealthy it was, which is you know, like the cause for my disinterest in it now, is that, you know, I'm always trying to push that, you know, like that thought when I hear that somebody does this thing, I try to push out of my mind the thought like, yeah, right, that's not real. Because I know that that's rapper pride, you know, that is really driving that. It's just like the rapper in me is like, when you called somebody else a rapper, you actually were insulting my rapperness. And therefore, like I need to redeem myself from this insult that you hurled at me by telling me somebody else raps.
So does that keep you from being a fan?
I don't find fandom very useful anyway.
Okay.
I'm being honest about that. Like fandom, I think is like maybe is actually a pretty awful thing. I think that like liking things. So I appreciate like particular things that happen. I think fandom makes people make bad arguments, and so that's like probably like, as a rhetorician, it's you know, like I think that I could stand pretty solidly on that. Like not just about rap or music, but just in general, fandom makes people make bad arguments that they wouldn't otherwise make. But I mean, I think that there's something about being critical that's like really important. And I think that I can drop that critical lens and then just enjoy stuff. So like, if you ask me if I'm able to receive joy from listening to music, then that's a different question than if, you know, like if I'm a fan of anything.
Okay. All right. Okay. So I mean, I say that because like for me, you made me some conscious by using the word fan, but like I'm a fan of the craft. I'm a fan of the culture. Yeah. I'm a fan of dope shit. And so I ain't got a problem giving it up for something that I like. I ain't got a problem with it. You know what I'm saying? And a lot of it's because of my security by who I am as an artist, right?
Yeah.
And so like I mean, I haven't been doing it during the pandemic, but like, man, By the time I saw you, the last time we saw each other was at 9 Pillars. That was April of 2019.
Yeah.
At that time, I was on the regimen to I was running 9 miles a week. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? 90 minutes, I had dropped buku weight. I literally would train to be an MC.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And I was on my shit, right? And so I knew what nobody working as hard at being a rapper as me, you know, to get I quit drinking, you know, to get my mind, my body, my soul in shape to be like at top fight form or whatever. And so yeah, you do what you do, but me at my best is still, if like my goal is to be that I want to be Super Saiyan every single time I touch the stage and grab the microphone, right?
Yeah.
If my Super Saiyan can whip your more, that's fine. You know what I'm saying? But that for me, I've never like I'm you know I'm for me personally, I'm competitive I'm competitive more as a I guess I'm competitive with myself because I'm always for me everything is about accomplishing goals, right? It's about, you know, starting something and finishing it at a high level, right? And so for me, you know, I'm competitive in the sense that I look at others for inspiration, but like, you know, you have that type of, you know, they say the root word of, you know, the Latin word, you know, the root word for competition is competare, which is a Latin word for making other people making better, basically, right? Yeah. And so when I think competition, that's how I look at it. I don't necessarily think about it from like the Tanya Harding, Nancy Kerrigan situation. Let me take their kneecaps out. You know what I'm saying? So, but I hear what you're saying. Like, you know, I had ironically, the cousin that introduced me to conscious rap, his wife was getting a PhD in rhetoric. So I know not to play with you rhetoric. You know what I'm saying? You rhetoric cats. I'm not gonna play with you in the words like that. You know what I'm saying? But but yeah, I mean, so for me, like, if I see something I like, I can give it up. You know what I'm saying? I don't. It's very rarely like it's very rarely I see somebody be well. I'll be like, man, that nigga ain't better than me. I don't. You know what I'm saying? But I you know, and it's funny because like, you know, we've chopped it up and we've linked up a couple times, and like, you must really try hard to like suppress that competitive beast because you're such a laid back dude, right? like you so chill, and it's like I'm laughing because like I can't imagine you just being like super chill, but inside you like, man, this dude can't. You know what I'm saying? So like that's why I find it. You know, it's just why I'm laughing.
But I think that's the thing. Like when you talk to, I mean, this is one of the things that like when I'm talking to my like this close circle of people. I mean, as you said, there's this thing that happens whenever, like when I'm making music or when I do what I do, like there's a level of confidence. And I think that that's the thing that like helps to suppress the sort of outward competition anyhow. Like the outward competitiveness is that what I do is what I do. And that really doesn't have a whole lot to do with what other people do. And so I think that it's really just redirecting that energy toward like trying to make myself better at what I do, rather than like saying that what I like that other people can't, like, or comparing other people to me. I think it's that comparison of myself or, like what my lane is to other people's lane or whatever they do is the thing that I find incredibly unhealthy. But like when I see somebody as dope, I have no problem whatsoever being like, that's dope. And I also don't give insincere compliments. So if I tell somebody I like something, I'm never doing that just because I felt like I had to do it. It's never, because I'm not really into that. Like, it's just pointless to say things that you don't mean for me. So, but the, like, particularly like what battle rap or like some of those, I think that I've been uplifted by communities that fostered exactly that community, like, and I think that we had a conversation about this, like on the phone about how we make community in a place where it seems to not, like not be as many folks doing the kind of thing that you want to do. And, like realizing at some point, if I want community, I have to be community. And being community means that I have to be receptive to someone who does whatever it is that they do. And I think that if automatically my thought is, he's not serious, she's not real, they don't do whatever, then that's going to really make it hard for me to even like to be community and to be in community with people, because I'm automatically like casting like these doubts on whatever it is that they bring to the table before they even get there.
Right.
And also like assuming that the table that like that is set here is the table that they want to be at, that what I'm doing or what I'm serving is what they want. So it's just really thinking differently about it. And I think that that's just growth, you know, over time, realizing that the approach of the person whose idea of what it means to rap is only one thing, and it's the thing that I do all the time, is something that I just had to move beyond so that I might be able to be in community with people, even if like while like we're sitting at that place where, you know, like me and other MCs that I know we might challenge each other in certain ways, but the challenge is not like is I'm trying to embarrass you, or that like I'm better than you, or that I see myself in like this other light than you. It's I want to make this the best challenge for us, you know, a challenge that makes us the best versions of ourselves that we're going to present on whatever it is that we're doing, rather than, you know, like I want you to be embarrassed by the quality of your verse compared to mine on the song we do together. If that's the thing that I want to do on a song with a person, I probably shouldn't be on a song with them. I want our song to sound good.
Right,
so
right.
You
want the best possible art you could possibly make in that capacity and get the point across.
Yeah. So how do we work together at making each other better, and then like make the thing that we're making together really good? And that's different than standing on stage and wanting to embarrass the person standing across.
Right. And so for me, it's like, you know, being a long-time facilitator, right?
Yeah.
I've seen, and just a person who tours the country doing hip hop all over, I've seen a lot of dope MCs who bar for bar, a lot of people can't see them, but they don't do shit with it. Mm-hmm. Right. And then I see a lot of cats who might not be as talented, but their hustle game is correct, right? Mm-hmm. So for me, I look at it in two different things, right? I look at it like so rap is so nuanced and diverse. Like my battleground is the stage. Who gonna rock the crowd the hardest, right? Because that, you know, that has more to do with the person's effort on stage to reach people in the audience, right? And then just on the hustle aspect, like I'm looking to see what you're doing with your art.
Yeah.
Or how are you letting your art open up doors for yourself and others and create opportunities? And so for me personally, what makes you so special, on top of being a super dope MC, is what you've been able to do with your art. You know what I'm saying? So listen, so I'm gonna go back a little bit. I'm gonna go back a little bit here. Let's take a gander. So after I saw you in NPR, started doing some Googles.
Yeah.
And here you are. You know what I'm saying? On Uprocks. You know what I'm saying? And you know, I'll respect. Where we at? I'll respect due to Dr. Dre, but hip hop finally has his real doctor in AD Carson, who received his PhD in rhetorics, communication, and information design from Clemson University in May. Carson's album, Owning My Masters, The Rhetorics, Rhymes, Revolutions, doubled as a dissertation, despite his concern that it wouldn't be accepted by the committee overseeing his work. So I'm gonna get to that in a second. But like, for the people who are watching, he didn't write anything down on paper, y'all. He doesn't have a book. Like, so real quick, I'm gonna show them this is what you did. You know what I'm saying? At the University of Clemson, you know what I'm saying? As a PhD student, you legit got a music video with your intro to your dissertation. And so I'm gonna show this for the people that are watching to show, like, you know, for people to put it in better context.
What would you call an educated Negro with a BA or an MA or a BS or a PhD?
I'll tell you, you call him a nigga, that's what a nigga is.
They say history is written by the victors. So when you see my picture in the book, it'll be consistent with my memory, my victory.
The dissertation is really just, I mean, I guess like in a real practical way, you could just say it's a rap album. It's a rap album that is the text of the dissertation. So rather than it being like about rap or it being about like spoken word, it's actually done through those particular modes of presentation.
The metaphors, ethic of selling the stores, the people that wanted to get it the way that they live it, the lyrics and the life that they live in, they really that different from what we are spitting.
And one of the reasons that I really wanted to do it that way is because, you know, it's just like the metaphor that I use is like dope. Kweli said, you know, I speak at schools a lot because they say I'm intelligent. No, it's because I'm dope. If I was whack, I'd be irrelevant. If I'm striving to be dope, or if what we do is dope, like, and by we, I mean rappers, what happens is it gets cut a whole lot of times. Hip-hop in sociology, or hip-hop in literature, or hip-hop in whatever else it is that we cut it with, this world of academia, you know, however we want to describe it, is that world not ready for that dope in its, like, uncut form? Can the scholars not just create or speak through hip-hop as opposed to having it, like, mixed with something else in order for it to be acceptable? We already know that people can experience and talk about rap without having someone else filtering it.
But I ain't on that slave shit. I ain't with that bosses you sick. The most you'll get from me is a hock of this spit, and that's it. I'm saying, ain't no crime in standing my ground. I ain't gonna wait for people standing around. Hope they recording it. Nope. If I'm in danger and it's from the police, I'm supposed to call another police? Come on, man.
I'm just kind of removing that filter and just like doing the rap, doing the dope, being the dope, hoping that whatever happens, even if the, you know, if the academic body, so to speak, like rejects it. I mean, I guess that's what dope does as well. It's you know, overdose. I just feel like we've been doing hip hop or rapping or spoken word or graffiti b-boy, and all of these different elements of hip hop have existed over here for so long as like ways that we can look at other things. I want hip hop to be the way that we look at things. I want the dope to be what I am and what I'm doing. It's very basically like I'm trying to be dope and do dope shit. That's pretty much it.
I'm gonna stop right there because I want to get into talk about hip hop scholarship later. So I'm gonna stop it right there. So okay, so all right. So like I said, chronologically we kind of all over the place. That's my fault. Oh, we're definitely doing some fast forwarding here. All right. So graduate from Millikan. Okay, boom. So what'd you get your undergrad degree
in? In education and writing. So
education and writing. Okay, cool. And like I said, at no point could you not get these bars. You know what I'm saying? Like he's ready to give you bars, and he's sizing your bars up at every single moment. You know what I'm saying? Books in his hand in the library where everybody's supposed to be quiet. He can give the librarian bars too if they want it. Okay. So now we're going to grad school at Clemson, right?
I went to grad school at University of Illinois I got a master's in writing, English writing, in Illinois before I went to. I got a master's in English writing before I went to Clemson to do the PhD in rhetorics, communication, and information design. Okay,
so now we're here. I didn't know about the Illinois. Man, you a bad brother. Let me give you your props right now.
Appreciate that.
I'm giving your props right now, before I forget. All right. So, what in the hell inspired you? What came to you in your dream? What premonition did you have? What ancestor told you, Brother Carson, I want you to drop a mixtape as your dissertation? So that's the first part of the question. And I heard you on the NPR say, I heard you on the NPR thing say it too, with Michelle Martin or whatever, Malkin, whatever her name is. You didn't even know if it's gonna be accepted. So what inspired you to say, you know what, I'm about to do this thing that nobody's ever done before and drop a mixtape as my dissertation? And tell us some of the tensions and trials and tribulations that you went on during that process.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think I think that this is the kind of thing that happens, when you go through kind of like tumultuous circumstances. Like Clemson is a plantation, like they say it's a former plantation, and that's, I think, maybe disputable. And so living there and then trying to name the things as they are, to try to discuss them the way that they are, that, like the main building, John Calhoun's plantation house, is still there. It's open 7 days a week. The main building is named after a guy they call Pitchfork Ben Tillman, who, terrorist, murderer. Actually, Ben Tillman bragged about murdering a state senator by the name of Simon Coker, right? This was like 1876. So when Dylann Roof killed those people down at Emmanuel AME church in Charleston, Clemson brought out 9 wreaths and put them on the military plaza, took this nice, nice frame picture with these orange ribbons on it. And then, like posted on Instagram. And you can't help but think that if they were more mindful of the fact that the man that the building in the background is named after literally did the same thing that Dylann Roof did, then they wouldn't dishonor those ancestors, like those lives in such a way. But of course they would do something like that because of the way that they engage with language, the way they engage with history, and so the project was really trying to take up those tensions, the ways that so much gets left out of the conversation, these things that folks pretend are unspeakable, unsayable. And the reasons that they say it's unspeakable and unsayable is because they don't have any way to control it. They don't have any way to evaluate it. And so like this idea that a university might be able to tell me, a university like Clemson, well, how can Clemson, that has no authority, and it has no awareness on its own to get its own story right. How's it gonna tell me if it got mine wrong? How's it gonna tell me that I got mine wrong? That's weird. You don't even know how to talk about yourself in public in any kind of responsible way. How are you gonna tell me that I got it wrong whenever I do it the way that I want to? And therefore, the authority that you say you have is not really real. Now, of course, you are a degree granting institution, so you might tell me that I won't get the degree, but you're not gonna tell me it's not a good album. You're not gonna tell me the album didn't do the things I set out to do. You're not gonna tell me that the album, there's so many things that you can tell me that the album doesn't do. With regard to what you're able to give me, but you're not able to give me all of the things that I'm aiming to accomplish with the album. And therefore, it's going to do whatever it's going to do, regardless of whether you accept it or not. And I think it's just the willingness to, to fail in that sense. The willingness to have Clemson say, well, no, we're not going to accept the album was a thing that I just kind of accepted. They don't have the authority to tell me no, even if they don't give me the degree. And then if they don't give me the degree, then what is the next step that I'm going to take with this album? Well, that's a different narrative and that's a different story, but it doesn't stop the progress of the project from moving forward, because now we have to ask questions about what it means to get a PhD from a place like Clemson if doing this amount of work doesn't do it. It's 34 tracks. It's an archive. It's, comprised of several, reading lists, media lists, all of this other work that went into it. It's all there. All of the work was done. So it's not like I was asking them, could I do less work? It was really just presenting different work. What do the artifacts, that are associated with scholarly work look like? That was, a primary question that was trying to get answered. And, we know that an artifact for us, given this history that we've been talking about, very often, a very meaningful artifact for us has often been a rap album. So that's how Owning My Masters, the Rhetorics of Rhymes and Revolutions comes into existence. And once I got the director of my program and my committee on board, then I didn't think that it would be as much of an issue moving forward. But I think that we were in constant communication as it was moving through the process. And the harder thing was convincing those, those committee members before everything, went forward. And then, I don't know, by the time I defended the project, I didn't think that we would have an issue, but so much whack shit happened at Clemson. A year before that, we, myself and 4 undergraduates were arrested during a sit-in, and it's related to things that have to do with the album, or at least, things that are happening on campus. And part of the way that I found myself intervening was, with music, just to try to change that conversation. And so the See the Stripes campaign existed. That piece is on the album. See the Stripes was the the vehicle through which, the poem and the campaign and the sit-in happened. And so, they could very easily turn around and say that same thing that we arrested you for a year ago is the reason that this project can't move forward. And like that's a thing that you could imagine a university doing, especially since they put so much energy and effort into trying to stop it rather than saying that we can be better about these things. And so the tension, it wasn't anything related to the amount of work or the quality of the work. It just had to do with like these kind of like what felt like very political things and misapprehensions, misunderstandings that seemed to be deliberate on the part of the folks who had power at the university and definitely used that power to do things that like I and lots of other people felt were untoward.
Man. I mean, it's bro, just talking to you, man, like I love how you use, like, even in academia, right, how you always use hip hop as protest, right?
Yeah.
So like you use hip hop, like, why do I need to write a book if I've done the work, right? Like I'm literally telling you guys, like, you have one way. Y'all got one way is to write a book or write a paper. You know what I'm saying? Like, and this has been going on for however many years this university's been open at all these different universities. And you like literally in real time revolutionizing that process, and you did it with the culture. And I don't think people understand like how powerful that is. You know what I'm saying? I know you understand. That's why you did it. But I don't. And I think overall, like I'm not the type of person, AD. When people say, and this isn't whatever. All right, so people could be like, yo, hip hop saved my life. I was doing this and I heard this song and it changed everything for me. And then on the other end of the spectrum, I didn't become a killer because Spice One said so, or negative music doesn't. Yeah, it does. Like hip hop is very powerful. You know what I'm saying? It's a double-edged sword. Like some of my worst days, some of the worst parts of me, as it pertains to like manhood, as it pertains to like what I had to unlearn, how I dealt with women, how I had to deal with LGBTQ people. My mom and dad, my dad cherished my mother. I never heard him curse her. I never saw him raise his voice at her. But I learned not to let them hoes from Pimp C and Ice Cube, right? And so hip hop does have that. It does have a negative effect. It does have a positive effect. And it really can, right? And so the thing I really appreciate about you is like, and I hate to call it like legitimizing it, right? But like, I mean, because we Black folks, but we don't own these institutions. So unfortunately, to get that legitimacy, we got to go to somebody else to get it. Unfortunately, right? And I don't always like, and I think a lot of that's because we don't understand our we don't always take advantage of our cultural gravitas and the power that we have, right? But long story short, but I appreciate you using the culture to protest what is deemed legitimate in academia and revolutionizing it, and Lord willing, the creek don't rise. You know what I'm saying? Before we get that more people will be able to walk through those doors, and with you, you know what I'm saying, hip hop in that capacity.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. I mean, I think that it's that's when I started off at Clemson, I also I had some of really kind of fucked up thoughts about what I thought I was doing and what I wanted to do. And that, that was a process of unlearning as well. You know what I mean? Like this is what I mean. Like there's so many ways that I see hip hop written about that, and then we kind of we take on the ways that it gets written, and then we narrate our lives in those ways, kind of like the whole hip hop saved my life, or legitimize, hip hop being legitimized by institutions, etc. And I'm not insinuating you do that. I'm saying that this is a thing that you see happen all the time. Like there was a lot of stuff that's been written about my work that does that. And I'm like, I wish that, we could get into that conversation and then talk about the amount of work that went into making a project like mine a reality. You know, like this foundation that's been put down to make that happen. But we're so enamored with like the breakthrough that like we're not looking at we're not even paying attention to the foundation. Or when we do, it's just like this sort of like, you know, well, since the 1970s, blah, 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 blah. And I think that it's because of the way that these stories get told. The stories are about individuals and not communities. You know, again, this is another deliberate reason to make a project talking about like these communities that I call home, so that I could focus some more attention on like the communities that I called home, rather than like focusing the attention on like the project, you know, and like the exceptional nature of the project, rather than you know, like sort of a set of practices that we might be able to use to do all kinds of different things, and all of the people who might be able to utilize those practices to do this set of things now. Because that's, you know, like to me, the important thing is looking at what our academic work might look like going forward. You know, like the idea that someone else might be able to submit a project and get this kind of, you know, like in exchange it, you know, for this kind of thing now, more than it's about like me, myself, you know, like as an individual. But that's also like just, it's never the story. And because it's never the story, then, you know, like it's hard to like look back, or not hard for me, but, you know, like it's hard to sometimes hard to articulate like what it could mean for other people's work.
And you know what? So with that said, you talk about the process of it, right? People celebrate the breakthrough. Like the longest album I've ever put out, I want to say it was Black Messiah. And the original had 14 songs. I went and added 4 new tracks to it, right?
Yeah.
So 14 to 18 songs, right?
Mm-hmm.
Nigga, you put 34 songs on the album. And like, nigga, and like I'm saying, I put 18 songs. So you I mean, I call the album 10 songs.
Yeah.
So you put out basically 3 songs, 3 albums in the EP. You know what I'm saying? You know, 4 projects worth of material. So let's take away the submitting it for a dissertation.
Yeah.
Like knowing you as an intellect, you know what I'm saying? Like knowing you as a historian, knowing you as a person who, you know what I'm saying, who is inspired by what you read and how it makes you create.
Yeah.
Or you know, you read, you write, you read, you write, you read, you write.
Yeah.
Like knowing like I got a list of books right here. It's probably about this big that I've just been going through. That's been part of my creative process, right?
Yeah.
This ain't goddamn 34 songs worth of material here. This ain't no archives. Yours might be a little Wikipedia Google into my raps. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But this is the shit I remember, things like, you know what I'm saying? So with this, I agree with you. Like that. So the work that you like, yes, we're celebrating what you did as an academic, but the research and the love, like somebody earlier today tweeted me and was like, yo, everybody told me I should start rapping. Marcel P. Black was the person who told me that I should turn it into a profession, which is whatever. I appreciate I remember having a conversation with him. Yeah. But he said that, right? And I appreciate the love from, especially from young dudes. These young dudes don't know how to say thank you no more. They don't know how to give nobody their flowers. Right. They don't say thank you no more. Yeah. They got so entitled. But I told him, for me, it's about loving what you do so much that you're willing to do anything for it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So to complete a 34 song mixtape, you have to love emceeing. Yeah. You have to love, you know, your producer has to love production. Yeah. Your engineer, I know your engineer got tired of your ass after song number 7. You know what I'm saying? Like, but that's me. Your studio engineer has to love and really be bought into what you're doing. You have to love these books and these archives and these sources, right? You have the community around you. It has to be a lot of love to complete this goal. You know what I'm saying? So like, so it took, I know it takes, you know, it took a lot of manpower, you know, like it'll take me, you know, it takes some people years to make an album, but like, so what you did with it, bro, like,
yeah,
that's up, man. That's up.
It's also, you know, shout out to Preem and Truth, you know, like, and those guys being so, you know, integral a part of that project, but just like the thinking community, like people who, you know, as you you know, as you're writing and you just have ideas, or you're, you know, kicking around ideas and just having people that you could send an idea to, or, you know, in the midst of, you know, like in the midst of living in a, you know, terrible situation, or terrifying situation like Clemson was in some of those days, you know, Preem would send me a track, you know, like just send a beat, and he's like, you know, this is what I did this afternoon. And I'm like, oh yeah, hold on a second, you know, and then I go and I do whatever I do, and then like, you know, like that process has started. And so I think that you know, thinking about rap as a way of being in the world, or hip hop being as a way of being in the world, and having a community that you are in the world like that with, so that whenever you feel, and I remember like the song called Dissertation. I remember getting that beat from Truth. I was in the back of a friend's minivan, and this was maybe like the first time I'd ever had, maybe it was the second time. It might have been the first time I had Five Guys, because, you know, it's just like one of the places that's out there. And I remember telling Truth, like, yeah, this place seems weird, man. I mean, it feels eerily like home, but I've never been here before. But it also feels like these folks act like I ain't supposed to be here. And so then, like, you hear like the vocal sample from the joint that's like, you know how it feels. You understand what it is to be a stranger in an unfriendly land. And then like the beat just drops, and I'm like, yeah, this is the joint. Like, this is the joint that's like about this entire whole, like, this thing. And so then I got the, you know, the Malcolm X sample, you know, the sample of Denzel playing Malcolm X. What do you call a black man with the you know, a PhD, you know, a BA and MA or whatever, you know, like you call him a nigga, that's what you call him, you know. And so it was just like this very easy, not easy, but it was this way that felt most like therapeutic, and it felt like the best use of the knowledge. Like, the way to process the information was to create these other things, and being in community, even if it's a small community of people where you might be able to do that. And, you know, the productivity goes up as well, because you're trying to process so much different stuff all of the time. So I'm actually happy that I didn't shut that part down and then say, well, whenever I get finished with this PhD, then I'll start making music again. I actually, you know, like the week that I got there and I was feeling uncomfortable, I'm like, yeah, I got to make some music about this. Like, this is weird. Like, this is not like being in Illinois. And I think you hear that from the beginning of that album all the way through the end. And you know, my hope is that people hear a learning curve from the beginning to the end of the album. You know what I mean? Like it's not static. When you get an album, I think very often you're getting a person who's in one particular moment, rather than getting somebody over a period of time. If you get somebody who makes an album over the course of, you know, like a doctoral program, you're getting a learning curve there as well. And I hope that people hear that. But, you know, like, I can't dictate how people listen to albums, especially, you know, like when people are not listening to albums nearly as much, when people, you know, like they want, you know, like they want a single, or they want, you know, like, you know, something that's like viral, you know, like something that's like sticky or spreadable. So I don't know, like, if it's interesting, you know, the album as an artifact on its own, to have so many conversations about that, and so, like, just far fewer conversations about what the album is doing or what it's trying to do. You know, like what's actually being dealt with, because there was a whole lot of heavy shit that, you know, like that happened throughout that time, and that like actually shows up, you know, sonically, on that album.
Bruh. this is, man.
Yeah.
So much. I'm looking at the time and I'm like, man, look.
Word.
Okay. All right. So let me throw in another side question.
Word.
Did you when you were pursuing your PhD, you know, as you're writing your dissertation, what were you teaching as a grad assistant?
Yeah.
What did you teach? What did you teach as a grad assistant?
So I taught, initially I was teaching like advanced composition. It was just argumentation. So, you know, it's like 5 essays, visual rhetorical analysis, like that kind of stuff, how people argue, which was, I think, really helpful. And then I taught an American literature class. I want to say American literature from, I want to say like to 1945 or something like that, even though that class I ended up teaching as literature and music. And so it was, or maybe it was from 1945, not until 1945, 45 to the present. And I wound up teaching that with albums. So each text was taught with the rap album, or a mixtape. And then I taught technical writing. And the technical writing was like kind of like audience analysis. So who are the people that technical writing is, who are the audiences that technical writing is written to? And of course, that's with the expectation that people start to think about, race, identity, gender, et cetera, as they're thinking about technical communication, and thinking of the ways that, some of these things that we don't see are kind of embedded in what we call technical or what we call professional. And so that was like toward the time that I started on the job market. I was teaching that technical writing course, or, I guess that was right before I went on the job market, because yeah, that had to be right. Yeah, anyway, it was really, really interesting stuff that ultimately led to a lot of learning on my part, but also just a lot of pushback from students about what rhetoric is, about what literature is, about what technical communication is, because I think that most of the times I was trying to challenge the curriculum that existed and what people expected from the classes, as much as I was trying to challenge myself and challenge the students.
So that brings us to 2017. Upon the completion of the dissertation successfully, via mixtape or what have you. I asked you that to see if you was doing this already, but so now we go to UVA, Charlottesville, Virginia, where we met at or what have you, where you're teaching, you're assistant professor in the music department, right?
Yep.
Hip hop in the global South?
Yep.
All right. So tell us about, so this is a two-parter. Tell us about your class, exactly what you do, being a teacher at University of Virginia. And we talked about this outside in the little rain, outside of the T Branch Bazaar. What is it like trying to maintain hip hop's Black cultural integrity in white academic spaces?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Let's do it.
It's a necessary question. So I teach one class called that's actually called the Black Voice. And it's strange because you teach a class with that title, you get a lot of people signing up for all kinds of different reasons. I have the Black Voice in scare quotes in the title of the class, but it's really a class that where I'm thinking about, I guess, like what you might call like listening practices, how we hear race. How do people hear race? What does it mean to call a voice Black? And what is the thing that's really really going on there? And try to trace that through history, through a number of different writers. And that class is, I guess it's like historical, theoretical, more than like the class that I teach called Writing Rap, which is a class where I'm teaching students how to write raps, or like we're going through exercises where it's like a composition class. Students are given a number of assignments, like 10 assignments, where I'm asking them to do some very specific things in those assignments, like different kinds of rap verses or different aspects of a rap song that they might have to compose. And then, like we kind of workshop and discuss those things. And every other session, we are alternating between, like history and then, a particular practice. And so like we might talk about a particular era on Tuesday, and then we would do a particular kind of rap on Thursday. And, we do that, back and forth, or we'll listen to a particular kind of rap, and then they need to write something like that for the next Tuesday when we're doing the next history lesson. And then I teach a class called composing mixtapes, which is, like maybe the most immersive, and it's 15 students, and they start off for the most part not knowing each other. And the goal is that by the end of the semester, they're going to write, or they will have written an album together, and promoted and released the album. Done a release. They do a release party for their peers, and make the album available for people to.
Were these the students that performed at Nine Pillars that I met?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, those were composing mixtape students. Yeah, and so and all of these things happen within the space where I teach, which is we call a rap lab, and it's just it's a classroom that has we've got a recording booth, we've got production technology, recording technology, space for students to like just kind of hang out. It's like 3 different technology stations, and it's like a lab. We just we're in there, or there are people in there all the time, though I also teach my classes in there. So it's a pretty dope space that feels like for me, it feels like it's at the university, but it's, like sort of away from the university. You can kind of like, as you're thinking about like Ralph Ellison's Invisible Man, kind of like it's like the underground space where we can kind of tinker around with whatever we want, and plot for whatever it is that we're going to do when we go back out into the world. And so the way that I try to connect this to, or the way that I mean, I teach my class as connected to African American studies, Black studies. And I think that that's the necessary way to ground the reality of hip hop at a place like UVA, in like Black history, Black intellectual history, Black thinking, Black thought, Black study, Black practice, Black planning, Blackness, all that it needs to be connected to, so that we don't ever get it misconstrued that somehow what we're doing at the university is disconnected from these histories that bring this art, not just like through me, through Clemson to UVA, but like through the world, through into the world, the way that we get it, because I think it can very easily be decontextualized from its histories, and then like sort of recontextualized at a university, and then people think that the thing that's happening at the university is because it's a global phenomenon, that what's happening at the university started in 2017 or in 2020, and it was founded by the people who started doing it at the university, and it doesn't have any kind of intellectual history at all, which I think happens and can happen very easily. But I'm very deliberate to make sure that my students are reading the folks who made it possible for this to exist, like in this way. Like I said, the particular like folks like Trisha Rosen and Monty Perry and Kira Gonton and so on. But I use Adam Bradley's book as well. But I also want them to read people who've been thinking about what it means for Black folks and Black thought, and like Black creativity to be in academic spaces before then. People who are anticipating what it means for, like Black folks to be at a university. So, folks like Hortense Spillers, or, Fred Moten, who, Fred Moten, as well as Sadia Hartman, and, all kinds of other folks who I think that what they are writing about, even, Guthrie Ramsey, his Race Music is also an incredible book. But I don't want to just like start like naming off books, but I do think that those folks have quite a bit to offer. And some of the fiction, I'm thinking like like Toni Morrison, Jean Toomer's Kane, Kiese Layman, I teach quite a bit of, and to think about how like folks are thinking along with music, and how that might affect the way that we, you know, like what we consider academic or what we consider happening in the space. So, you know, folks might feel like Toni Morrison is more academic than Rod Digger for whatever reasons. I mean, we know the reasons, but if there's a connection between the two, and then like, and we call Toni Morrison a creative artist, then I think maybe it's easier for us to see Rod Digger as a creative artist as well. You know, if we have that filter, or, you know, we have that analogy to make. So, but also that's just like my literature background, you know, coming back, because I think that it's just like all kinds of really creative things that, like I said, like novelists have done, and essayists have done with music that that we might do in our lab. So whatever folks might want to bring in, I'm open to them bringing it in. But those are the things that some of the things that I'm bringing to the table, and hopefully other people are bringing all kinds of other things whenever they do come, particularly in that, like that composing mixtapes class, where I'm not doing the composing, they are. I'm just giving them things that they could put in their toolbox.
Why do you think HBCUs don't have programs / classes like the ones you teach?
I mean, I would imagine the easy answer would be resources. And, you know, like when, you know, if someone is able to make available the resources that exist at the University of Virginia at a HBCU, then, you know, I imagine that, you know, like they would have the same kind of thing. Now, I don't know if it has, because I haven't asked the question to anybody who represents HBCU or who has the, you know, like the access to make something like that, something happen. But I don't imagine that it's because of lack of interest. You know what I mean? Like, I just can't imagine that would be the case, that like ain't nobody interested in it, therefore nobody's pushing for it. But I think that sometimes the unlikely circumstances happen because of, you know, because of context. So, you know, if someone were to think that, I mean, let's think about it in a, I guess, like a different way. If someone thinks that hip hop is not serious academically, that might gain traction, you know, like differently, you know, at a HBCU than it would at you know, at a predominantly white institution. Not because like HBCUs are more prone to, you know, like thinking of Blackness in pathological terms. Like it might be like the same thing animating it at the HBCU, and that is just like, you know, like a way of white supremacy, you know, like moves. And therefore a person might say, well, I want to be treated seriously as a scholar. I want our institution to be treated seriously, you know, like institutionally, et cetera. Now I'm saying that that's a possibility. Again, I've not spoken to anybody about anything like that. And so I wouldn't know. And maybe it's reckless to like put out the supposition without ever having the conversation. But I do think that context is really important. And so like if there's advocacy, you know, like that's coming from students to have like a particular kind of programming, you would hope that the people who have the ability to make the programming happen, you know, like folks would make it happen. I imagine that if the job that I applied for and that I work at currently was posted by an HBCU, that wouldn't have stopped me from applying for it. You know, but like I applied for the job that existed. So I wasn't applying at UVA because I wanted to be at a PWI. I applied because the job sounded dope. If that same job description came out of an HBCU, I think that would have been.
I asked that because look, all I got is a bachelor's. It took me forever to get that, right? I don't have any advanced degrees, and I've never been to a PWI, but I don't think I can come with mixtape as my dissertation at my alma mater, Southern University.
Yeah,
I think like resources not an issue. I think that's a way in which, unfortunately, this is a hot take. I think this is a way where HBCUs are very conservative.
Yeah, I think that's
you know what I'm saying, and unfortunately, some of these, well, circumstantially, some of these PWIs are a little bit more liberal or neoliberal, if you may. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, I think that
so if you so I mean, do you think do you think that, I mean, regardless of the work, the time, all the conditions that you met, if you would have been to Orangeburg or South Carolina State with your PhD dissertation as opposed to Clemson, do you think it would have been reserved? Do you think it would have been received the same?
I don't know that but that's it. Like that's because the circumstances, like, I don't know if the circumstances at Orangeburg would have necessitated the kind of pushback that the kind of resistance that I wanted to present, you know, like in the face of the pushback that I got as a Black person on campus. So I said the same thing. If I was at the University of Illinois in Champaign, I might not have made the album. And the reason has to be because, like, I mean, if you're in a place where folks are just telling you that you can't exist, then you start thinking like, well, like if I can't exist doing all of the things that you say that you deem are appropriate, I start to realize that even if I did all of the so-called appropriate things, there's nothing that I'm going to do to make myself legible to you or make myself acceptable to you. So now I'm like, well, how do I really, like, what's the acceptable kind of pushback, or what's the appropriate amount of pushback against this? Where a person says that, like, your voice isn't even supposed to be here. You should be grateful that we're even allowing you to be here. You're on a plantation. You should be happy that that we've come this far, that John C. Calhoun would be turning in the ground, or Pitchfork Dan Tillman would be turning in the ground, that you're even here. And I'm like,
all right, so let me make sure I'm picking up what you're putting down. Yeah. So you presenting your dissertation in the mixtape was, in my mind, I always thought about, like, okay, one day you had this revolutionary idea to do this. But what I think I'm hearing you say is, no, you decided to do it in the form of mixtape as a FU to like, oh, y'all gonna treat me like I'm some nigga ain't supposed to be here? Well, let me bush over here with this mixtape.
Yes.
You a gangster.
Yes. And that's precisely it.
Okay, so because for me, I always thought about it just like, that's why I was asking you, like, what was the most, and I'm just now like really getting what you're saying. Like, no, I did this. This is me bucking the system because they was handling me bad. So if you went to Clemson, you would have had no problems. You would have been just all good. You know what I'm saying? Like, yeah. you might not have dropped the mixtape. Is that what you're saying?
That is exactly what I'm saying. Yeah, it was.
Like, hey, bro, you a gangster. No, because, oh man, all right, that just adds a whole nother layer to the situation. And as it pertains to even what I was saying earlier about protest, like, now we're just not really clicking forward. Okay, so okay, all right, that's clear to me. That's clear to me. So it wasn't like, okay, let me just try to do some creative. Like, nah, this is how I'm busting back at you.
That's precisely it. There's literally a song on there called "Shoot Back."
All right, look.
There's literally a song on there called "Shoot Back."
Say no more. Yeah. Okay, I hope people are listening. The light just came on. You know what I mean? I've been hit, but no. Okay, I get it. I get it.
And I think that that's really important. You know, like when your body is, you know, like this is the reason that I say that the project is about like embodiment, like the embodied like Black voice and disembodied Black voice, because like, you know, like there's this idea that Black voices in certain circumstances through particular like media are acceptable so long as Black bodies ain't around. And like, well, music is one of those like very apparent places where folks love to have Black folks coming out of their speakers and are scared as hell of Black folks being in their presence. So
one of the many crusades I've taken on as a facilitator and leader here in Baton Rouge is, so 2015, it was, so I had a show book. It was the day after my birthday, the day after I turned 32, I want to say. And I was working with this young white lady, what have you, and she buku cool, you know. Nobody had ever done a hip hop show, like a legit hip hop concert downtown Baton Rouge. Yeah. Right. So So you know, I had been doing a whole bunch of shows. Unfortunately, there is no hip hop scene in North Baton Rouge where the majority of Black people live at, or by Southern University's campus. All the hip hop shows, because you know, especially doing underground hip hop, you know, unfortunately, Black people want to go party and BS at the hood clubs. They don't want no underground hip hop, right? And when you do underground hip hop, a lot of the fan base is white. You know what I'm saying? So a lot of those take place by the bars and venues by LSU. So we've done a lot of shows by the bars and venues at LSU. She's like, you know what? Let's take it downtown. She got a plug because she does other type of live music events. So she wouldn't book this particular venue, and part of the reason why she was able to book it because you know we had a thing called the BR Hip Hop Project, and we would try to do all type of different dope things with hip hop. So of course we had a live band, we had hip hop DJs, things of that nature. So she went and booked it at this particular venue downtown, and so we were promoting for about 2 or 3 months. You know what I'm saying? It was supposed to be it was the first ever legit hip hop concert on 3rd Street downtown. About 3 weeks before the show, I'm like, yo, come pull up at my birthday party. It's gonna be at the Rue House. It's not called the Rue House anymore. And I get somebody comments on the post. I tagged the venue in it, you know what I'm saying? Like, yeah, I don't know who told you having a birthday party here, but we're not doing that. Like, this is what the venue posted on my post. I'm like, what's going on? So I hit up Chelsea. She hits them up, and basically, and I say his name, and I got beef with this dude. I did some on record and everything. It's a local politician, well, a local wannabe politician. He's a business owner, venue owner. He's ran for mayor a couple times. He's the police liaison. Well, he was a police liaison for the Baton Rouge PD. His name is John Delgado. You know what I'm saying? He a fake Cuban / he go back and forth. You know, when he want to pander to the Latino, he's Juan. You know what I'm saying? But when he get the white supremacy on, his name is John or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Okay. I'm with the smoke. We can fight. I don't like to do. You know what I'm saying? So, anyways, and so she talked to Buddy, and Buddy said we won't rap music without Black people. And so we ended up having to move across the street from the venue. And even then, when we got over there, luckily, where we was having the show at, it was like outside. And they wouldn't even let us put up flyers in the window.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? They wouldn't even let us put up flyers in the window. You know what I'm saying? So luckily we was outside, people hear the music. We still brought 500 people out. You know what I'm saying? And there's been other places, venues that I've been to where if you go there on a Tuesday night when nobody's there, they're playing Lil Boosie loud up the speakers. Yeah. But when I see nobody's at the bar, I'm just like, yo, I'm a national tour hip hop artist. I have connections with these people. I would like to come by and just do a Tuesday night hip hop show. We don't do those. Yep. So I definitely understand the you know what I'm saying, we want, you know what I'm saying, we want your culture without your bodies. Yeah. Like it just came out like on recently where it just came out that like certain venues are charging rap acts, you know what I'm saying, $700-800 to book a venue when folk singers don't get paid a damn thing, or they get paid up front. You know what I'm saying? So they're definitely you know, I've definitely experienced like that type of racism, you know what I'm saying, just prejudice, or just all type of disenfranchisement because they want our culture, but they don't want us. You know what I'm saying? Exactly. Yeah. And I think that you know, like in universities, I mean, of course, it's hypocritical shit. You know, it's not. This is a university that was a plantation, right? And so like they want Black bodies there. They just want particular kinds of Black bodies, or they don't want black bodies that are animated by thought that is going to push back against the status quo. And so this was like why it was important for me to like make that link between what they call like amateurism in sport and what was happening on that plantation. And that historical link is not like, it's not broken. You know, like it's actually something that is connected to that house, you know, like, and so when those folks, you know, and I said on the track on the album that when the football team is running down that hill, when they talk about, you know, Brent Musburger is like the most exciting 25 seconds in college football. And as people are bigger fans of Clemson, they see that happening in slow motion, you know, in these national championships, all of that shit. Just know that at the apex of that hill that they're running down is a plantation house. That very hill, like at the top of it is a plantation house and it's open every day. Even on the days, you know, like before people go to those games, you can go to that house and tour it.
And so like all of that money that the university is making is related to like these Black bodies that are there. And so like, what does it mean for like, for those, what would it mean for those players to have like some say about what it is that they're doing? And so it's not just about rap. I think that rap is just symbolic in a way, because I mean, rap is the way that we might be able to, like, is a way that I saw to be able to give voice to it, because I like, my feeling is that a lot of people listen to rap, but they don't like, they hear rap, but they don't listen to it. You know, like they're processing that something is happening, but I don't know that they believe that what is happening is something to be interpreted, you know, like literally and in metaphorical ways, or is communicating particular kinds of information, which means that you can encode all kinds of shit into rap music, and there are certain people, you could play it in front of everybody, and certain people are decoding the thing that you're doing, and others, they just hear it. So how do you speak to who you want to speak to in plain view, without having to hide it? And I think the rap music is one of the most effective ways to do it. It's just like, yeah, no, I said that shit. You know, like when you know, a song like Talking to White Folks or Kill Whitey or whatever it is, like these songs that somebody's like, well, you can't do that. And I'm like, why can't I? Like it's weird that you would say that I can't. And then, you know, we can bring out some of those contradictions. I mean, I think that we can actually like draw some of that out if we had better conversations, you know, around music, around cultural production. It might not be as productive a place to, you know, like, you know, let those arrows fly. But I don't know. I just got the, you know, the idea that I'm going to do this, and I bet a whole lot of folks ain't going to hear it. I mean, they'll hear it, but they're not going to really like engage with it. And so it kind of leads to there's this kind of ambiguity that's there. It's like, well, what are you even doing anyway? And so like I mean, I imagine for a lot of people at Clemson, they didn't even know that my work was work until they were reading about it, you know, somewhere online. And it's like, oh, that's what he was doing.
So what's your relationship with Clemson now?
You know, it's funny. I mean, they did when they decided that they were going to change the name on that building. I did a little interview on Good Morning America when they said they were going to change the name of the Honors College, but that wasn't at the behest of Clemson. That was, you know, like some students who were there who were organizing on behalf of the Honors College to get John Calhoun's name off of it. You know, I think that in this strange way, I don't want any student at Clemson to have to go through what I went through, or what people who were there while I was there went through whenever they were there. I'd be open to have a conversation about how they might do it better. They've attempted several times to co-opt the work that, you know, that we did when we were there. And the reason that they're trying to co-opt the work is because I think that they see it as something that might be effective. But, you know, these folks are not nearly as interested in giving Black folks credit for what, you know, like what we contribute.
Well, we talk. Oh, I'm sorry, my bad. Go ahead.
And I don't mean just like sort of acknowledging and saying like you were here and you did that, but I mean like some of the stuff is like you're asking folks to labor for free on your behalf without, like, you know, where you might pay a consultant, you know, X amount of, you know, like whatever, or, you know, it's like all kinds of resources to go into getting a consultant to like PR spin this, somebody who's actually doing the work and had to, you know, like go through some shit in order to make it happen. You're like, well, if you don't want to volunteer and come over here, you know, like, and let us take credit for the work that you did, then you're not on our side. And that's, you know, that's not real to me. You know, like, I mean, particularly again, in a place that is a former plantation. So I think that my relationship to Clemson, that's the place that I graduated from. They can't deny it, and they'll claim it whenever they want to act as if they are really doing something they aren't. But if you're gonna claim me and claim my work, then, you know, like, engage with me as such.
Like, claim the struggle, claim the bullshit. claim all that, and claim my genius. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, y'all really did that here. And bust you over the head with it.
Yeah.
We talked about this when we said last time we had a phone conversation.
Yeah.
So it's a lot to go with this. First of all, knowing how you feel, knowing now I have a better idea of how you feel as it pertains to, you know, your competitiveness and your stance on fandom and, you know, things of that nature. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It means even more to me that, like, when I found out that you had my album In Search of the Black Messiah as a part of your syllabus, like, and okay, I'm gonna ask, like, what you told it to me, and I guess it was just something going through my mind. So, like I said, you have my album Search of Black Messiah as part of your syllabus. What does that mean? Like, what did you do with the album? Because I'm saying it because I want to rep off this shit later. I've been telling people, I definitely rep that the album was a part of a collegiate syllabus, and I know I was supposed to come out there and see your class, but Corona hit. But like, what does that mean? What does that mean?
Yeah, so like my composing mixtape students are like, my challenge to them is, you know, like, one, about sort of creative collaboration, and what does, you know, like, sort of a group ethos look and sound like. So what does it mean for you to have a perspective, a point of view, know what that perspective and point of view is, and then like move forward into the world with that? And so I think that In Search of the Black Messiah, of course, does that. I mean, I think that what I want them to get from it is that the things that you might be scared of presenting in your music actually aren't things that you should be scared of. They're actually things that you should be embracing. And perspective is important because you all have one. And so like, this is an example of a project that I think that moves in that direction, in a kind of unflinching way. It's not hedging and saying like, I kind of want to dip into something. It's there. Whereas like the other, I mean, and there are other projects that are like themed projects that are on the syllabus. At one point, I know that J. Cole's Forest Hills Drive was on there. I had Erykah Badu's Can't Use My Phone, I believe is the name of that mixtape. Kendrick Lamar's Untitled Unmastered, primarily because like, this is kind of like working from the like standpoint of negation. It's like, these are all things that aren't a thing, or that weren't part of another thing. And so what makes them cohere? So I was thinking about like, what are the threads through projects that people might use? There are, and then there's a project that Truth did called, what is Truth? It's called Short Stories. And I'm not even gonna be able to call out all of the albums that I give them, but I give them these albums to listen to so that they might have examples of the kinds of things that they want to do collectively. And they see that, you know, like sort of politically and sonically, they can go in all kinds of different directions. And that there's not just one way to make a mixtape or to make an album or to work with people toward whatever the goal is in an album. And sometimes the album, like, you know, if you listen to, you know, like some of these, like, you know, like some weirder, I was gonna say like, ambitious is not the word, but I want to say like maybe even avant-garde, you know, like there are ways that you might, this is also why I teach Kane, is to like think about Kane, the book, as like a mixtape. What is Gene Toomer, like what's the link between all these pieces that Gene Toomer has in this book? And so In Search of the Black Messiah is one of an example of a lot of examples that I want to give the students to be able to think about what rap albums can sound like right now. Not what rap albums can sound like, but what they do sound like. And so I remember telling them that you were coming, and one of the students was like, oh, you know him? Because I think that they feel that way very often. Like when you say like, I'm gonna have this person or that person, or, you know, like they've gotten to the point of assuming that I know everybody on the syllabus, which isn't really the truth. But I do want to make sure that they have the idea that even if it's not a person that I don't know, that I'm, you know, willing to reach out if it's something that's going to help us do whatever we're going to do. So they were really looking forward to being able to talk with you as well. And, you know, we just couldn't get it worked out during that. Well, no. Corona happened. Right. We tried. And so, look, so this brings me to my next question, right? And so, it might have been this time last year. It might have been later. It might have been later in 2020. You know, I was like, because I hit you up, I asked you, I said, are you doing anything virtual? You was like, yeah, but it's a little different now. And I was like, look, man, so I think this is before I shut everything down.
I said, look, I'm still coming to Virginia because at the time, Nine Pillars had moved to August.
Yeah.
And so whatever, I had to get my money back anyways. And I was like, look, man, I'll pull up. You was like, the bread ain't really there right now, so I'll do it for free. You was like, no, you won't do it for free. And then he was like, no, like, I'm not going to get you here until I can pay you commiserately because I'm trying to, basically it's like, if I'm trying to legitimize hip hop in academia, even if it's not super duper academically credentialed, I can't ask you to come out here and do it for free because it kind of undercuts my whole argument. And then we had a conversation about how you were trying to get Mickey Facts.
Yeah.
Teach a class. And I don't know if you saw, I interviewed him, a couple podcasts ago or whatever. You know what I'm saying? We interviewed Mickey Facts. I meant to ask him about you, but we didn't get a chance to or whatever. So with that said, I got a couple more questions. All right. So what are some things that you would like to see happen with hip hop and academic spaces for artists and for educators alike?
Yeah, pay people for what they do. Like that's it. Like stop asking people to do labor for free. Stop depending on the the prestige of your institution or what it means to like sort of be on the grounds of your institution as payment, because it's not real. And I get how it actually does, like exchange for something, like if somebody's able to say that I did this thing at UVA or I did this thing at Clemson or I did this thing with these people. And I think that the institutions get that. And that's the reason that they're able to get away with, like using people. But I think that educators and artists need to be paid for the work that they do. And I think that it's up to folks who have the ability to, internally hold institutions to that standard to make sure that they uphold that part. It's not my money that I'm asking UVA to pay you whenever we ask you to come in as a guest lecturer, or we ask you to come in as a guest artist. That's not coming out of my pocket. And if it had to come out of my pocket, then like, well, what do I have this job for? So if they're paying other people to come here to do these kinds of things, we need to make sure that those same formal requirements for other art and for other, intellectuals to come in are the ones that we're making sure are exercised for the people who we ask to come in and do the kind of work that we're doing, even if sometimes it feels informal. And so like that's that's on the end that I see. And that's also one of the things that when people are asking me to come, like that's the kind of question I'm asking. Like, okay, so well, what are we thinking budget wise? And they're like, well, we thought you loved hip hop enough to just, and it's like, I mean, I love a lot of things, but I also I love paying my rent, and I love, eating, like enough meals a day to, to be all right, so it's weird that you would think that love is going to be the thing that, that gets me to your campus and, into teaching, even though these are the reasons that we start, but people start abusing your love. And so, this is kind of a business thing, in that way. I also, my hope is that we can have, more nuanced conversations and about more than just like a history, more than just a history, you know what I mean? That there are, like these questions, that you ask about Decatur and about what it's like, what it meant to be a rapper in Decatur, like those I think are very rich questions to ask people about their locales, so that we start to see that like this like very simplified timeline that we have about hip hop is, I mean, it's fine if you need, like sort of an outline, but it's just like so much rich material, in between those lines that we still have to explore. And that means that there are lots of other people we have questions to ask to. I think that, we need to be a far more inclusive, artistic and intellectual community than we have been. Even as people are trying, I still think that we can be better. I think that there's a whole lot more work to be done. And you know, I also think that we could just be better listeners, that we can all be better listeners. You know what I mean? Like that's the thing, that's the thing that that we have to think about so far as you know, thinking intergenerationally. You know, like what does mentorship look like? And I don't think that mentorship looks like me, you know, telling some 14-year-old rapper my war stories, what it was like for me. I think that mentorship for me is as much, if not more, listening to like what 14-year-old rapper wants to do, and then trying to like help guide them through those desires and whatever the possibilities are. Then it's like sort of me saying, well, y'all got it easier than I had it because y'all got SoundCloud, or because y'all got, you know, this, or you can go directly to, you know, like your listeners. Because I don't know that that's very helpful, and I don't know that, you know, a 14-year-old me would want to hear that from somebody. And so like that would make me less likely to talk to somebody who, you know, like at that point I would have called an old head or something like that. So I think that that's just, you know, like that's not just hip hop. You know, I think that that's probably like academia across the board, and maybe just like sort of as people, we could listen to young people more, you know, and listen more intently to folks who have been historically excluded from our communities, and ask them what community looks like for them, or, you know, like what it looks like for them to be welcomed into communities that, you know, like where they want to work and contribute and perform and, you know, like thrive. And so it's not just a matter of, you know, like what folks call tolerance, because, you know, like, yeah, I think the tolerance is like kind of insufficient for what, you know, community looks like.
Tolerance is the bare minimum.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, I think it's the bare minimum, but I still think that it's inadequate. You know what I mean? Like, just
right.
Like I'm all right with you being here, like that.
You straight?
You know,
all right, bro. All right, you straight?
Like, yeah, I'm not actively kicking you out. So, you know, like you should be happy. That's a weird line. You know what I mean? Like that line is definitely inadequate for what I think that we should have. So then, you know, like the spaces that we occupy, like become, and I think that this maybe also has something to do with the way that I frame conversations around competition. It's not that the thing that we were describing as being competitive isn't real, or that, you know, like as an MC, like that I couldn't send you, you know, like you a private message, or you and I have a private conversation about what it means to try to like go at somebody's neck, you know, like lyrically. That's different than it feeling so combative and like toxic and like charged that people feel like they can't even participate, or that they can't be in the space, because the kinds of things that are going to come out whenever that kind of energy comes toward them is going to be like even more violent, even more hostile, because of who they are and what they bring into the room.
So I used to, so when I you know, I used to, you know, freestyle battle stuff in high school. I got to college, you used to battle a little bit, but then like when the URL stuff, I say this with Mickey Facts, when the URL smack type stuff, when they got to, yo, I put the pistol to your unborn child, like that's yeah, because I fight. I don't play them type of games. Like, if we want to go about MC skills and, you know, hey, call me fat, or say that my shoes are leaning or whatever, my collar drunk, that's one thing. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But, you know, yo, I raped your daughter. Nah, we're not doing that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Like, yeah, that's, you know, that's just the side note or what have you. You mentioned we talk about battle, we talk about MCs, we talk about Mickey Facts. I think when your album dropped in August, I told you my favorite joint was Ampersand. I must have slept and did not realize you had a remix with Mickey Facts.
Yeah.
And it's important that people who are watching this understand that, yes, we are dealing with an academic, we are dealing with an intellect here, but my nigga went bar for bar with arguably one of the greatest MCs on the planet, one of the last real MCs. So for the people that are watching and still here, you know what I'm saying? We almost done, but I want y'all to people my guy does. This is the Ampersand remix featuring Mickey Facts.
Right.
Oh, and there's a lyric video too. So if you don't
A to the great
Yes, yes.
Yes, I'll tell it like it is.
I be knowing that folks be not understanding the moves I make when I make them, but I be making them still. Rules I be breaking be arbitrary. If art's necessary to document how I live and how I lived it, then what you're about to hear is better than the peer review. Peering through to the process, a living document of how I got this from where it was to where it is. Delivered through your speakers, consistent with the thesis. The remix.
A lot of people feel I don't exist. I'm not inside the public eye, so they going diss, but my fingerprint is left on the head of a chauvinist. Cause my impact is felt via vocalists and the socialist posing as a cloned example. But the beat feels different once you know the sample. I'm instrumental, producing thoughts on an open panel. Furious, these are the things I'm not supposed to grapple. Top lyricist, and I'm dope at Scrabble. I ain't flip-flop with the feet like a broken sandal. I just blow the candles. Every year's a better year to flow and dazzle. Every peer who figured the culture's tackle. See the quotes unravel, but I'm headstrong, living right opposite of dead wrong. Kept on synonymous to the ampersand when the lead drawn. Know what I am when you see me, I'm the best dog. Facts.
I be knowing I be on some shit I shouldn't, Lord forgive me. But if I could change a thing, I probably wouldn't. I be putting on a mask, still never smile for cameras. Try to keep the hunger of an amateur. Ampersand, ample ammunition, handle business, thinking little, plan, plot, and strategize. And look out for watching eyes. Occupy the lane I'm in, and know that even if I signal, it'll only change what I see in the rear view. Where I'm going, I don't be knowing the verses that I be wanting to write. Bragging in raps is kinda boring despite knowing I'm one of one. And niggas love to hate to see me be it. I am, and that's just making me repeat it. And as I write before I read it, know I've had less and have made better with the stress. When your friends left to be ancestors, it ain't inner vision or premonition that 2020 saw me seeing more than I ever wanted happen to many folks I love. It started with a funeral and heightened by anxiety while trying to keep my usual demeanor and procedures. Quarantining, using FaceTime and baselines to pace time, cause I wasn't traveling across the state line. Decatur on my mind, and Virginia's where I'm at. And I don't know when I'll be going back. And probably I won't sleep until I do. And if the proof is what it seems, I said it when I used to love to dream. I be knowing I be on some shit I shouldn't, Lord forgive me. But if I could change a thing, I probably wouldn't. I be putting on a mask, still never smile for cameras. Try to keep the hunger of an amateur. Ampersand, ample ammunition, handle business, thinking little, plan, plot, and strategize. And look out for watching eyes. Occupy the lane I'm in, and know that even if I signal, it'll only change what I see in the rear view.
In the words of the memes that went around about a year ago, this nigga spitting.
Yeah.
So look, so now we to the end. Let's talk about this album that you dropped, right? A.D. Carson on his first ever peer-reviewed rap album, Spring Shift and Fall Courses, whatever. He dropped an album called I Used to Dream. I actually caught one of the all right, this is amazing to me. It's good to read this stuff out loud and talk to you about it, and it just makes it even better. 3 years after releasing an album as his PhD dissertation, University of Virginia professor of hip hop, which is just, man, that's just, I'm gonna say that again. University of Virginia professor of hip hop, A.D. Carson, has released the first ever peer-reviewed rap album ever published by an academic press. I'm gonna say that again. One more time, bro. University of Virginia professor of hip hop, A.D. Carson has released the first ever peer-reviewed rap album published by an academic press. All right, we're here now. We'd have been a lot of great places. We're here now. Let's talk about I Used to Love to Dream. Now, right when you dropped it, you did a live stream, like an interview or whatever, with I can't remember who it was.
Yeah.
But I was able to hop on to catch that, man. And just, we don't talk that often, but I'm a fan, I'm a supporter. And especially as I get into hip hop education, I watch what you do. You know what I'm saying? And I remember when I first started, you know, the nonprofit that I work for, you know, it's a white lady. Shout out to Anna West, Dr. Anna West. She got a PhD at Harvard, I want to say. Anyways, but I work with her. She really got me into youth development back in 2007 when I was still in college. And, you know, had my family, went on, moved on, did other things. when we was able to work again, she wanted me to come back under the fold and work for her new nonprofit called Humanities Amp. She said, Marcel, what do you want to teach? What do you want to do? I said, I want to teach hip hop. She said, okay. She gave me she didn't tell me, she gave me no notes. She didn't tell me anything. You know what I'm saying? So I created my own curriculum. You know what I'm saying? And it's emergent and it's still evolving. And I didn't know what the hell I was doing, but it's become one of the most popular programs and classes in the whole organization. The kids love me, whatever, they're growing, like whatever. So, you know, I've taken the mantle of hip hop educator very, very seriously. Yeah. And so when we're talking about hip hop education, I'm the only Black male and I'm the only person from the culture that's on our administrative team. Yeah. And so when I start talking hip hop education, one a sister, a Latino sister who's actually getting a PhD at LSU, she Googled hip hop education and you came up. And she asked me, did I know A.D. Carson? I like, that's my man. And so she was so like jocked out. You know, well, let me not say she was jocked out because she's a married woman, whatever. But she was very like she had a fan moment. She was really, really excited, whatever, and she just thought it was cool that we knew each other, whatever. And you know, and so because she understood, a lot of people don't even understand when I say the first and only ever hip hop album peer-reviewed and released on the academic press. They don't understand that. She understood it, so she was like really, really excited about the situation. So can you tell us about I Used to Love to Dream? You know what I'm saying? And just tell us what went into creating the album, what's kind of come from it afterwards.
Yeah, I mean, the album came from really, there's a series that I started doing, you know, like related to that, you know, like the prologue and epilogue of Ralph Ellison's Invisible Man. So that's where Sleepwalking comes from. And, you know, after I did the dissertation, I came here and was really, you know, like you move from one place to another, like one station to another, and you don't realize how much life is really altered because, you know, like yesterday was just yesterday. And, you know, and that's all that it was, even though, you know, like all of history is made up of yesterdays. And so this change, like like my mind processing that change is much slower than the change actually happening. And so I think that these albums are trying to like sort of stand in that space to document what's happening from moment to moment to moment. And so I did Sleepwalking 1, did Sleepwalking 2, then did the Royale, which was like I did sound design. It was a mixtape that was sound design for a play that was put on here in Charlottesville. And then I'm like, well, what's the next thing to do? And I had probably like Sleepwalking 2, I was already talking to some academic presses, but it just seemed like the questions that they were asking me about the work that I was going to do, and a lot of stuff, the contacts that I had with people trying to get me to do their, like the thing they wanted rather than people asking me really what I want to do. And so, so the album was really also me thinking about like where I am and where I'm from. And so, you know, like ampersand, I think is a good illustration of that. But I started recording it, didn't know what I was doing. I think I started writing the song Asterisk first because that was the thing that was most present on my mind. And then I had this grant, me and a colleague of mine had a grant to go to South Africa I took a lot of music with me. I took instrumentals, took like these songs that I had finished, and I know I was supposed to be performing at the National Arts Festival. And as I was talking to folks there, like just like there was just something about home, like missing home, thinking about home, it just being present on my mind, just like it was there, it was stuck. So that was kind of when I knew like, yeah, okay, like I think that this is what this album is going to be. So we had a listening session for the album, and then I came back home and started, you know, like finishing up the album, and then got into real contact with people at University of Michigan. And that's when we started the process, you know, which took forever, of like the peer review, you know, like this anonymous, you're sending everything that you have to these people and they're going to listen to it, read it, and then tell you what their suggestions are, and also say whether they recommend to be published or not. And then, you know, we started having conversations about what the technology looks like, and, you know, like even the supplemental materials, and then like how we best represent the project online for people to be able to listen to it. So you can get it on whatever streaming platforms, but it's open access. So, you know, like my hope is that people not go out and buy it, but, you know, like share it, like actually share it for free. Everybody who wants to have access to it has access to it. But also with the supplemental materials, you have a couple essays there. There's supposed to be more essays coming, things that, you know, like I'm looking to publish in other places, and then I'll republish. So I did an essay with the conversation that describes the album in a little more detail. And then there's a chapbook there called Rap and Storytelling Reinvention. There's a short film documentary where I talk the truth and Vintage and Mike, you know, and all of these people about the project. So it's a lot, you know, but I think that the album is supposed to be, you know, it's also supposed to be about how we narrate history, how we talk about ourselves, how we talk about or how we talk about our lives, and how that brings certain realities and, you know, to fruition. So yeah.
Brother, you work so hard and you so serious. You so serious. Do you ever, I mean, and I know you're on sabbatical and I know you're still working.
Yeah.
Just take the time to be like, I'm doing some dope shit. I did that.
Nah, man. I mean, you know, I
good, brother. Hey, listen, man, listen, bro. You gonna get these flowers, brother. You gonna get these flowers. Not for real, black man to black, bro. Like, I am like, and just listening to, you know, the last 2.5 hours, bro, like super duper inspired. You know, I talked to you came up in conversation with Dr. View, you know, Stevie Johnson out, you know, Tulsa last summer. You know what I'm saying? And just like for it's the people who know, for great brother, they doing man, Tulsa, man. Look, we're gonna talk some off air about Tulsa, but bro, the work that you're doing is just phenomenal, and it sucks, man, because we're in the digital space, because we're in this microwave space. Like, you know, 60 years ago, you know, breakthroughs that black people did it meant more, because, but now it's just a blip. It's just a link on, it's just a link on social media now.
Yeah.
And so for real, I want you to, like, don't ever underestimate like the power and your ability, and like you are legit a history maker, a legit revolutionary in this particular sense. And you doing I'm super duper inspired. Like, part of the reason why, you know, I'm going back to school, so I give me some, you know what I'm saying, I want to get back to school because I'm really enjoying teaching hip hop to my middle school kids and don't know what the hell I'm doing. I'm just having fun. The kids, I judge it by the kids, man. All these other rubrics and stuff, I don't know none of that. I got my degree in history, bro. But these kids have responded. Like, my class has been very, very, you know, I am a Pan-African, you know what I'm saying? A Pan-African brother coming out of the Black radical tradition. You know what I'm saying? And so I don't hide that at all. Look, I mean, not luckily, but you know, most of my class is all black. Got some Latino people, one white person. But look, we talk about black stuff in here because we talk about hip hop. And I told them, like, none of my students want to be rappers. None of them want to be rappers.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But I explained to them, like, look, I did a whole lesson on the history of hip hop. I pounded in their head what conscious hip hop is, and made them understand that we are surveying hip hop historically, and, you know, what's emerging through the eyes of a conscious hip hop artist.
Yeah.
That's how we're breaking everything down. I am getting into Black Marxism and socialism and things of that nature. And, you know, so and I use Fred Hampton to introduce that to him.
Yeah.
You understand what I'm saying? So like, and so it's, you know, I don't get paid nothing for it. It's I mean, I get paid a livable wage, you know what I'm saying? But I'm looking and I'm seeing people, and it's not necessarily about the money, but it's about, I want my respect. You know what I mean? I want whatever. But so I'm seeing people are getting paid a whole lot more to do what I do. And so just talking to you and watching the doors that you've opened with your passion, because it all begins with the passion for the culture and love of hip hop and the words, right? Like I'm sure that when you was in high school, you would have never saw yourself being a hip hop professor. You know what I'm saying? But it's because when you was at the arcade, you wanted to rap. When you was doing security, you wanted to rap.
Yep.
When you was working on your PhD, you wanted to rap. When you was teaching, you wanted to rap. And the love for the words and the love for the culture and understanding the transformative power with these words and with these cultures of why we're here. And so the doors that you open and the pressure that you're setting is like, brother, it's absolutely amazing. If don't nobody else tell you that, if Clemson never show you that love, or yeah, bro, you know what I'm saying? Like, you just understand, like, man, what you're doing is extremely powerful, man. And you know what I'm saying? Thank you, bro. Thank you, brother. I had it pulled up a while ago. So for people who think, you know, because look, ain't no cap in these raps over here. Like you know what I'm saying? Ain't no cap in these raps. We really own the Michigan Public University. You know what I'm saying? Like it's really happening, bro. Like, nigga ain't wrote a book yet. There's no book. There's no book here. You have to listen. Yeah, you get a little booklet, you know what I'm saying, with some tertiary, but no,
if you get
no books,
ain't no papers. There was a short run of physical albums that came with a, but that was another thing.
A piece of book, man. It ain't no, just look. This is what 700 pages. You have to do this.
Yeah.
You have to do that. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to do that, bro. Like they don't understand how powerful this is, bro. So one last question, and I'm asking you this because I know with you being you know, in the rhetoric, you have one thing I like about you, and I'm learning from you. You're very intentional with your words.
Yeah.
So the 34 song project was a mixtape. Your album or whatever, it says a mixtape essay. Is there a reason that you're emphasizing calling these bodies of work mixtapes as opposed to albums when you present it to the public?
No, and I think that I call it the projects at Clemson mixtape essays as well. I think that that's just to kind of signify that there is a continuity, you know, so it's not a different kind of project than a rap album, but I think that the rap album for a really long time has been, you know, how people say things and it's like it had a meaning, you know, how like all bandages become band-aids, you know, like an album stopped being a physical thing a really long time ago, or stopped being, you know, like what an album was, or, you know, an album was. And so like, it so happens that I Used to Love to Dream, we did make a physical vinyl album. But, you know, as a...
Which you sold out of, you can't get no more.
Yeah, that's true. There might be a I don't even know about that shit. Let me not make any...
On Bandcamp, it say sold out.
Yes, that is true. That is true. But it's to also say that like this kind of like this idea that I was saying, like, you know, like this narrativity, this like, you know, conceptual thing happens with all kinds of other writing as well. And so like I wanted to connect the idea of the mixtape, you know, like this assemblage of things that you're putting together to make an argument in an essay, you know, same kind of thing, so that folks see the continuity between the music and, you know, what essay writing might look like or sound like. And so that's why I call it a mixtape essay. I should also say that there was an attempt, you know, like you know, like before I did my dissertation, there was a book that I wrote called Cold that had there was an album. It was an album, and then I wrote a book to go along with the album. And you know, the book is no longer in print. But I think that like I think it started with that, like privileging the what I realize is that the written word is always going to take precedent in a lot of people's minds over the sound. And so if you were to write an album and then write a book to go along with the album, if you release them at the same time, people are going to say you wrote a book and an album, or you wrote a book with a soundtrack. And so the mixtape essay says that the thing that you're listening to is doing something that I would consider essayistic, or, you know, like that I would consider, you know, like sort of being in conversation with an essay. In the same way that I think that, you know, like maybe the way that actually, this was my teaching demo. The way that we listen to Kendrick Lamar's Good Kid, Mad City might be significantly different if we were to take it on the terms that he gave it to us when he called it a short film by Kendrick Lamar. Him calling it a short film is giving you some expectations as a listener or a viewer, I think. And those expectations, I think, are different than just getting an album and saying or getting a project in the same context or same way that you would get any other project and then not being told how to listen to it. I think that the way that somebody describes it, like the category they put it in, gives you some instructions for listening.
If you look on the screen, ladies and gentlemen, you see this is the Bandcamp,
Right.
adthegreat.bandcamp.com. As we said, no cap in my raps. You see, it says you own this.
Yes. Appreciate that.
Oh man, come on, brother. Come on, man. Say less. The least I can do, brother. Anywhere else can we find you? AD is AYDEE the Great. That's his website as well. That's the Bandcamp. Where can we find you? Instagram, Twitter.
All of them, yeah. It's AD the Great. All of social media is that.
100%. Once again, bro, it's a pleasure and an honor discussing with you. There's some stuff I want to rap about you once we get out to record.
Okay, right.
I don't even know if I'm gonna make this a two-parter. We might just put this all up because I don't know where I can break it up at because the continuity in it, I don't want to mess it up. But yeah, this is a Really Outchea podcast. This is my guest, AD Carson. Let me move up. Let me see. Wrong way. YouTube, Marcel, black.com. I'll put this up tomorrow, man. No, whatever. All right. I like my high freedom.
Peace.